shelter in the subways. The conflict halted plans for the Kirikov Music Festival, an annual international classical music festival in Ukraine's second largest city. So the organizers said they scrambled to improvise among the war, and they descended into the subway station and a business's basement, hoping to find safety from the assaults overhead. Music Can Unite, art director Vitaly Alashenko said, it's important now for those who stay in Kharkiv to be united. The original concert would have included a recital by French pianist Lucas Debarge and was to be held in the Grand Hall of the Kirikov Philharmonic. Instead, the concert between explosions, that's in quotes, as it was called on social media, started with the Ukrainian national anthem, prompted by audience members putting their hands over their hearts and singing loudly. The program included the music of Bach, Dvorak, and other composers, as well as arrangements of Ukrainian folk songs. Hundreds of all ages watched, sometimes holding each other. The program was adapted to highlight the connections between Ukrainian and Western European culture. Alexanov said music teacher and violinist Ola Patashka told the Washington Post on Sunday that performing in the subway sparked a range of emotions after a month of war. She said she was angry and tired, but, quote, at the concert, we felt unity. I, like all Ukrainians, are waiting for victory. Fellow violinist Stanislav Kurikanov told the Post that the concert was unlike any other played. There's no stage excitement that usually happens when performing, but I knew that I was exactly where I should be. Kareniko said the music had a, quote, strong influence on the psycho-emotional state of a person and could, in the conditions of war, help people to cope with fear and stress and inspire faith and optimism. If you look at the pictures, they're actually playing on the landing of a long staircase. You know, it's staircase and then the wider middle and the more staircase. They're standing in the middle of it and sitting, in the case of the cello player. An amazing visual. Sergei Podatuki, director of the Kirikov Music Festival, said that the underground concert showed that amid the darkness, there are eternal values and a future in our country. Our country is melodious, beautiful, intellectual, and will overcome all these difficulties. I love that quote. We're seeing the Ukrainians struggle. We're seeing them fight. We're seeing them die. We're seeing them flee their country. There's 10 million refugees now. We're seeing a lot of bad. We're seeing their country being destroyed out from underneath them by the illegal war crimes, genocidal man Vladimir Putin's aggression. But we're also seeing them sing, and we're seeing them fight, and we're seeing them stand up to evil, and we're seeing the very best of humanity in the Ukrainian people. And God bless them in the effort. We need to do more to support them, and we know that they're going to win because they are in the right. That'll do it for Heard Tell today. However you're watching or listening, make sure you subscribe. That way you get all the programming we do, brand new episodes every weekday morning. So wherever you and yours are, until we do this again tomorrow on Heard Tell, we hope you and yours are well. We hope you're well fed. And we'll talk to you tomorrow for more Heard Tell. All the music on Heard Tell is provided under a Creative Content license from monstercat.com.
Bringing you the best local talk radio shows, Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM, WFBT, Carolina Beach. Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Well, hey, y'all, it's Holly Brewer
and Amy Ludwig and Kristen Ludwig
from Just Think, the podcast where we don't want to tell you what to think. We just challenge you to do it. We're happy to have some of our episodes featured right here on 106.7, The Big Talker, on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So we hope you join us in the conversation and, most importantly, just think.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. 3 days of negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian delegations begin today in Turkey. After more than a month of war, Ukrainian officials are hoping a ceasefire can come from this round of talks. To bolster NATO readiness, the Pentagon announced it is deploying 6 Growler aircraft to Germany. The planes can jam or confuse enemy radar. Closer to home, dry conditions are increasing the possibility of wildfires across western North Carolina. There are ongoing efforts in the battle to put out a fire in Swain County that stretches into the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The fire covers about 750 acres. Fire officials say about 30% of it is contained now, and they expect to make a bigger dent into that number as weather conditions improve. About 70 firefighters are on the ground from multiple agencies. There are currently no evacuation orders, and there have been no injuries reported. In New Hanover County, Cape Fear Public Utility Authority released its annual drinking water quality report. The EPA requires drinking water providers to report their water quality and what's been found in the water, sometimes down to the parts per trillion. Certain contaminants are allowed to be found in our water as long as it doesn't surpass the EPA's and states' set limits. CFPUA had no water quality violations last year. And it may not feel like it, but there's some good news at the pump. Average gasoline prices in North Carolina have fallen 5.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price across the state is $4.02 a gallon, according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 gas stations in North Carolina. Despite the slight decline this week, prices in North Carolina are 47 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and stand more than $1.40 higher than a year ago. The national average price of gasoline remains at $4.23 a gallon. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Today's going to be the coolest day of the work week, so be sure to have a jacket with you at all times. We're starting the morning off in the middle and upper 30s and only going to make it into the middle 50s for afternoon highs, 15 degrees below the average. And we are going to see some sunshine and some high cirrus clouds throughout the day today, but for tonight, partly cloudy skies will be in store for us. Light winds out of the south and temperatures falling down into the middle and the upper 40s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
I'm an HVAC technician, summer's most popular person. To say my job is stable is an understatement. Every home has an air conditioning and heating unit, so I will always be needed. The best part? I make great money in a career I love. I went to CFCC and got hands-on practical training and quickly got a job. Knowing I will always have a good paying job means a lot to me. I got my start at CFCC and you can too. Make it happen. Make it CFCC. Visit cfcc.edu/HVAC and get started today.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Join Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. That's right, rise and shine, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Is that right? That's what I thought. Wow. What a morning, huh? We just got started. Had fun listening to our friend Donald and her tell program. Except I think my computer is still giving me some fits. So if we have trouble with the news break again, you may hear the station go dark while I reset a couple of things. In fact, here's your warning. We will be right back as soon as I figure out what happened. There we go. We're going to see if that helps. Yeah, we're at... Ah? Oh, look. Okay, it's starting again. We're working on it. Yep, the whole thing just decided to go sideways this morning. Huh. Windows 10. Horrible. When you steal a radio station, you don't have a choice as to what software and hardware you get. So I need to let the system go through all its silliness. There we go. Oh, what a morning. Bon dia, ladies and gentlemen. Stop it. There we go. Stop it. Almost back to normal, ladies and gentlemen. You get to enjoy the entire behind-the-scenes reboot situation. That's what it's like some mornings. Yesterday was Monday. Today is Tuesday. However, Monday decided to follow me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Monday. Please go away. I do not need you. All right. Try this again. Got to do some additional stuff. And, of course, you know, the computer's freaking out. Okay. Yeah. I got to take care of this. I know. Forcefully rejected. Yes. And yes. Sweet. Okay, we're almost back to normal, ladies and gentlemen. Come on now. I gotta wait for 3 more things to finish. Then I can possibly concentrate on reading or writing or arithmetic or something. I don't know. Still something of a battle. Holy mackerel, that thing got loud. I'll have to fix that later. Anyway. All right, are we back to established? Let's see what happens. It is currently 7 o'clock in the morning. Hey, they're all loading like normal. So next time, I promise, or looks like, next time we go to break, it won't try to fire all the bed music at once. Sorry about that. So, yes, Windows running for, a month at a time might accumulate some errors, and then it just starts losing track of things. One of those things being all the nifty hard work that Jeff Rivenbark at WAY puts into the system, into getting me the news every morning, as well as Ramel Carpenter, who will someday probably forgive me. I don't know if I'll ever receive a Christmas card. But he also works diligently that on mornings when it's hectic there and he gets a message from me, hey, I don't have any weather. What's happening? And he is incredibly patient with me. So I have to thank the folks at WAY for being patient and for daily delivery of news and weather information to keep us up to date. One of those news stories was covering, which is weird. North Carolina, at least in my experience, because I grew up in a desert, is one of the most humid environments I've ever been in. Now, the interesting thing about that is that water doesn't really burn, but right now, North Carolina's it's got wildfires and, burn warnings and that kind of thing, which to me is unusual. So, New Mexico is very, very dry, but it's also not dense. Like here, if you catch one tree on fire, you have so many trees next to it. In New Mexico, if you set a bush on fire, it's going to be 20, 30 feet to the next bush. So unless that wind is blowing really hard, it's only going to be that bush. There's nothing around it to burn. But here, you get a tree going, and trees go, and it's a completely different environment. Even though it's far more humid, a lot of the fuel dries out really, really quickly. And keep in mind, North Carolina's been on the coast for millions of years, so the water absorption and outflow to the ocean is very well established. in which case it's, not uncommon that the water in New Mexico would settle and then you end up with these weird mud cake flakes because of, the consistency and such of the environment. Whereas here, it just absorbs straight into the ground. It's really wild. You don't really get to see that in New Mexico. It's a completely different environment, different sand, different everything. So, all right, we're still putting the station back together after this small failure this morning. Yep, a few adjustments. Ding, ding, ding. Also, as a technician, there are a lot of times that I'm unavailable or get called out to fix things, and one of those, I have to admit, was a lot of fun. I was in Bolivia, North Carolina yesterday, doing some work with the Brunswick County GOP for their show, All Things Brunswick. And I'll be heading back out there today to put on the finishing touches so that the Brunswick County GOP can have fantastic sounding meetings, even with Zoom guests, and still participate here at the BigTalker.live Tuesday night live at 6 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and the network. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of stuff happening, so it takes a lot more attention to detail than just, showing up and having a meeting. Trying to get this material to you in the best quality possible takes some trickeration from the technical brain power of people like myself and Nick Todd, working together across, what is that, nearly 60 miles, 70 miles away? Because we want to keep you up to date on what's happening in Brunswick County. Lately, they've been having a litany, if you will, of candidates for various positions open in the Brunswick County, which to me, I think is more effective than letting a candidate create their own advertising campaign, which is usually a smear campaign, is going to be name calling and, a bunch of other things that don't really pertain to governmental positions. That's why I find it so important to make sure that shows like this happen. Because yelling and name-calling and mudslinging is not going to do much to tell me what these candidates are like. But programs like All Things Brunswick will dedicate their hour to introduce candidates to the greater audience. And instead of mudslinging and name-calling, the question and answers are usually about that candidate directly. What are your philosophies? Where are you coming from? Where are you going? What do you think is most important? Why should we vote for you? That sort of thing. And you're not going to get that in a 30-second television spot. Just not happening. So they'll grill these people for 20, 30 minutes at a time to try and get the best, because when candidates make campaign promises, it's vaporware, for lack of a better term. But then you can grill them. You can ask them, hey, what's going on? Even though you were your platform says this, your voter history says that. What's the deal? Right? So those are some of the differences in having an actual conversation with the candidate rather than a 30-second spot from the candidate. As much as we like to delude ourselves here in North America, United States, television is not an interactive environment. It's a one-way, passive situation. Now, you may think that you're interacting when you yell and throw things in your living room or your basement or your den or wherever your television is. That's not interacting. That's just allowing you to have a tantrum in the privacy of your own home. Interaction means that you get to push back and ask questions and get responses. And that's why this show is so important, and that's why it's so important for me to travel the 140-mile-an-hour round trip yesterday and today to make darn sure that you get the best quality program possible from the Big Talker Network. So the last two may not have been the best sounding, but I promise you it's not going to go unnoticed or unaddressed. So again, as a technician, most of my concern is trying to keep everything running, keeping everything sounding good, not distorted, nice and clean, boom, boom in the resonance of my voice, but still clarity so you can understand the words. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here. And I really enjoy that part. The challenge of working with Windows 10 machines, however, is not what do I want to say? It's not the pinnacle of the achievements in my life. But I have to admit, I feel like I should get a trophy or at least a medal to pin on my chest every time I beat Windows at its own game. Right? I mean, I should probably have like a sharpshooter medal for what I've had to do to keep Simeon running. Simeon is our automation. And in the Simeon are all kinds of trickerations that I have to, tell it what time it is, what to do at that time, what to do with this file, that file, play these two at the same time, go to satellite, go to remote, which is really cool because, we're starting to bring in services and capabilities at the station that other professional corporate-run stations simply can't do. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the interest. They don't have, it's kind of hard to motivate employees to be creative in a corporate structured overlord micromanaging environment. It just can't happen. But there's not a lot of interest in the educational department to teach children, or students anyway, to sort of figure it out for themselves. Is this what you want to be known as? Is this, when someone hears your name, what is evoked in their memory? Somebody who works hard to solve problems, or are you somebody who is the problem, who does nothing but complain and regurgitates memes from the interwebs, right? I mean, that's just... And this is where I had an argument with the one of my bosses at the station here, which was fun. I'm hoping he calls in at some point, because it's... Yeah. Sorry, I'm keeping an eye on something to make sure it doesn't fail. Yeah, having, ideological differences, et cetera, but there's, to me, the quality of my work is a reflection of who I am, right? So when the station is misbehaving, that's a direct reflection on me. If something doesn't sound right, that is a direct reflection on me. And it is my character, my nature, to correct that. Even if it's a misspelling in an email, it's not uncommon for me to spend an hour writing, reading, proofreading, correcting, editing, amending an email just to make sure that I am conveying what it is I'm trying, whatever deep concept or idea. But I also want to make sure that my letters are, my words are spelled correctly. I use the correct words. I match my verb and my subject in plurality and in tense, right? Future, past participle, future. So I hold myself accountable. So that if somebody comes to me and says, can you do this for me? Here's what I need. Can you do this? And I can answer honestly, yes or no, or yes if, or no but. Because you have to be able to work around situations. Just had an issue at another gig. Had some color problems when the client decided to dictate what can and cannot be set up, what can and cannot be lit, how many lights, how many outlets, that sort of thing. Made it not the prettiest pictures ever captured by a camera. And of course, this new guy, He has some experience. He's very young and kind of new, and I had to guide him through a couple of things, one of which is all the nifty behind-the-scenes editing tricks to try and make video not look as bad as it was when you originally shot it. And the other thing, and I think this is more important, is the disconnect between this kid's ego, his desire to show off and be fancy, flappy, super silly, zing. It's like, okay, look. That's fine if your audience is a bunch of, ADHD Ritalin popping ADHD teenage gamers. That's fine. But we're dealing with, middle-aged business professionals. They don't need their company to be imaged as a 13-year-old ADHD Ritalin popping gamer teen, all right? These are 40-year-old professionals. These people actually take a shower and wear a suit and have a nice haircut and sensible shoes. These are not skate punks, right? So learning your audience is one of the most important things you can do. The audience that we're shooting for here on the Big Talker Network and certainly the Asylum is adults who want to get involved and understand what's happening in politics without the Facebook memes, without the name calling, without the rock throwing, without standing at the extreme and throwing rocks at each other and, being hateful and useless. We as a community, I would like to think that we as a community would want to improve our community, to improve the quality of life for our family, for our children, for our future, for our fellow countrymen. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people on this planet. There's a lot that we should be concerned with. And as such, these are things that we need to pay attention to. But it all starts personally. To me, I think that it's, what you do and what you say is your responsibility. If you say you're going to do something and you don't expect me to call you again. And that should be true all the way around. If you aren't willing to clean up your own mess, I'm not calling you again. And I think that's why the radio station has been, the owners of this station have been so gracious in allowing me to not only steal the radio station and keep it going, but to support it. Because I have, since the day I got here, been steadily working on improvements, even when we were in the Murchison building, and on into my garage, that I want this to be a forum for discussion and conversation, adult conversation, and I don't mean sexual. I mean trying to come up with solutions for the problems that are facing our community, because we, you've heard it before, we're all in this together. Ladies and gentlemen, for our communities to improve, it's going to involve the participation of everybody, the people living next to you, the people living across the street, the people living down the street, the people living in the next county. Because our community may start in our neighborhood, but the community is our towns, our cities, our groups, our civic groups, our communal groups, Boy Scouts. I mean, there's all kind of things that make a community, and we keep ignoring them, withdrawing into ourselves as individuals, trying to be unique and different and little islands amongst ourselves. We can't do it that way. Not going to happen. That's how we ended up with the poisons and the contaminations in the Cape Fear River, because somebody decided that they were more important than their community, and we need to reverse that trend. The community cannot survive without us. So the further we withdraw for community, the greater disservice we do to that community. So please, get involved. It's a groovy thing to do, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back on the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Right here on the Big Talker Network. We never shut up. Please, don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. 3 days of negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian delegations begin today in Turkey. After more than a month of war, Ukrainian officials are hoping a ceasefire can come from this round of talks. To bolster NATO readiness, the Pentagon announced it is deploying 6 Growler aircraft to Germany. The planes can jam or confuse enemy radar. Closer to home, dry conditions are increasing the possibility of wildfires across western North Carolina. There are ongoing efforts in the battle to put out a fire in Swain County that stretches into the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The fire covers about 750 acres. Fire officials say about 30% of it is contained now, and they expect to make a bigger dent into that number as weather conditions improve. About 70 firefighters are on the ground from multiple agencies. There are currently no evacuation orders, and there have been no injuries reported. In New Hanover County, Cape Fear Public Utility Authority released its annual drinking water quality report. The EPA requires drinking water providers to report their water quality and what's been found in the water, sometimes down to the parts per trillion. Certain contaminants are allowed to be found in our water as long as it doesn't surpass the EPA's and states' set limits. CFPUA had no water quality violations last year. And it may not feel like it, but there's some good news at the pump. Average gasoline prices in North Carolina have fallen 5.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price across the state is $4.02 a gallon, according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 gas stations in North Carolina. Despite the slight decline this week, prices in North Carolina are 47 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and stand more than $1.40 higher than a year ago. The national average price of gasoline remains at $4.23 a gallon. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Today's going to be the coolest day of the work week, so be sure to have a jacket with you at all times. We're starting the morning off in the middle and upper 30s and only going to make it into the middle 50s for afternoon highs, 15 degrees below the average. And we are going to see some sunshine and some high cirrus clouds throughout the day today, but for tonight, partly cloudy skies will be in store for us. Light winds out of the south and temperatures falling down into the middle and the upper 40s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Get all your sports action with Tanner Barth on WWAY.
Let's get things started with our full court press matchup of the week.
From the full court press to the fifth quarter and everything in between.
And they say if some is good, more is better this time.
We've got your sports world covered all around the Cape Fear.
Check out the save from the captain, full extension.
This is the place for your sports coverage. WWAY.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
I'm Rob Renz, Marine Corps veteran, entrepreneur, and local business owner. Join me and my buddies on Monday from 6 to 7 for Signal Fire Radio, where we discuss how to successfully transition from the military and become a signal fire in your community. That's Signal Fire Radio, Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 106.7 The Big Talk.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum. Your refuge in a world gone mad right here on the Big Talker Network. Recovering from the restart this morning, which, you know, we all need that now and again. I mean, I'm sure people watching, listening, or even those who don't or aren't have had to, you know, reset their day more than once. Right? You got to sort of reset everything that's happening. Maybe you got to have another, you know, cup of coffee and reset your day and get started, you know, because every now and again things just get a little wingle-wangled, a little mixed up in the overall, what's the word I'm looking for, scheme of things. Ooh, look, I don't know. Is that Working hard on this Tuesday morning to bring cool people and adults to the program, such as our friend Andrew Donaldson, the managing editor of ordinary-times.com. I do believe I have you on the line, sir, yes? Oh, no, not again. This is unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we're going to try this again, find out why you can hear me, I can't hear you. Okay. Oh, man. So I get everything else working, and this one decides to give me problems. All right. So, what has happened here? Okay, now I know you can't hear me. Now you can hear me. All right, reconnect, my friend. Look at that. Oh my, I might hear you this time. Ah, there we are. Look at that. Whoops. That is amazing. That's the way it's supposed to be.
What's amazing?
That it's actually working now. I can hear you. I can see you.
Is that amazing?
It is amazing.
I love the low bar of just getting excited over things that are supposed to happen.
Well, like, when it's Windows.
Listen, you and your cult of fruit.
So you were having a conversation this morning with a movie guy. I can't think of his name right now because I had so much I had to repair. And y'all were talking about this thing. I still haven't seen it. I have not participated. I do not find this to be a very good representation of who we are as Americans here in the United States. So apparently somebody said something about somebody at a something, and somebody took a swing at somebody.
No, Will Smith, the actor, smacked Chris Rock at the Oscars. He walked up on stage and just gave him a good old flat of the hand smack, which most in the common vernacular we call something else that I'm not going to get us an FCC violation over.
A smack
so
slap.
yeah, he just walked up on stage and slapped him. And of course the internet has lost its ever-loving mind because now everybody's got to not only have a hot take about it, but they have to psychoanalyze everybody involved, and on top of that, it all has to slam into whatever your, moment du jour was anyway. So now it's people are writing about how this is, Chris Rock is Ukraine, and Will Smith, like you're getting really, really just bonkers, stupid crap.
Now, is Will supposed to be on stage?
No, he got up out of his seat. What happened was Chris Rock, if people were living under a rock for the last 2 days.
That'd be me.
Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, who is Will Smith's long-term. They've been married for forever. Their kids are all adults. In fact, they were all there. So I don't know how long they've been.
Unlike the people on the stage, they were adults.
They've been married at least 20 years, if not 30. Like they've been married forever. She's sitting in the front row. She has alopecia, so she doesn't have any hair.
Oh.
Okay, so she's bald. She's still beautiful. She's drop dead gorgeous woman, even though she's got to be in her 50s, doesn't she? I think. But beautiful woman. She didn't wear a wig or anything.
Right.
Yeah, she very much is. So she's at the awards. She wore a gown. She went bald. She didn't wear a wig or anything like that because of her alopecia. She's been very open about this every time. So anyway, Chris Rock made a G.I. Jane 2 joke to her.
Oh, shit.
Now, what happened here was, if you watch, the U.S. feed's kind of screwy because they were running it. You're a TV guy. You can explain this. Live events, you run them on a delay, 5 second or 7 second or whatever the case may be. So if anything untoward happens, you can dump it.
Yep.
So the U.S. feed, people watching it live in the U.S., they didn't see all of this because they were scrambling in the control room. And this thing went from him getting out of it. Now he's in the very front row. So from him getting up, walking to Chris Rock, slapping him and walking back, it's probably about 25, 30 seconds total. So it's too much to dump the whole thing. So the live broadcast, you didn't see all of this, but you can see it now because the internet lives forever. They have like the one that's getting shared where you can actually hear Smith cussing him out and telling him, keep my wife's name out of your MF and mouth and this sort of stuff. That's off I think the Japanese feed of all things, because the Japanese record everything. So we have but now we've got the different angles in the room on top of it. So now we've got what happened was when he told the joke, Will Smith's laughing at the joke, looks over at his wife, sees his wife roll her eyes and kind of do one of those rock back thing, and he stops laughing and then he gets mad. But you can see it clearly on his face where he's laughing, looks at his wife, and then changes his mind like, oh, I shouldn't be laughing at this. And somehow in about 4 seconds from laughing about it, he's striding on stage and slaps Chris Rock. Now, depending on which version of the story you want to believe, there's a whole lot of back history here that we're not going to delve into because I'm not going there. It's all out there. It's on the internet. You can look it up. You can look up the Smiths, Jada Pinkett and Will have been very open about their relationship and the way they've conducted their lives. You can look all that up. There's history between Jada and Chris going way, way back. These people all know each other. This isn't happening.
Right. It's not like
okay,
one
let's be
guy's
adults here.
Iranian and one guy's, on another country.
I don't want to go there, but this Will Smith and his wife, especially for the last year, we talked about this with Luis Mendez today. By the way, if you want a movie guy that's no BS, knows what he's talking about, he can talk about art house, but he also talks about Marvel stuff. Go follow Luis Mendez. Mendez Movies, RTP. I had him on the shows. Was he not fantastic?
That was amazing.
That dude's awesome. I love him. He's been writing movie stuff for Ordinary Times. He used to do a bunch of election stuff. And
21
he's like, man,
out of 23, dude. I don't
he
know
got
anybody.
20. He went 21 out of 23, and the one he missed that he was upset about missing, he actually wrote about it a couple weeks ago, and he said, I'm going to miss on this, but I'm going to stick with my prediction to be consistent with his prediction. But he said it wouldn't surprise me if this slides because of what, and we get into it with the Power of the Dog film, which he goes into great detail. He saw that coming, but he didn't write about it. He mentioned it a couple weeks ago. He's like, hey, this is trending downward, so don't be surprised if this happens. So the one he missed, he actually said that he was probably going to miss on it. So I'll give him that one too. So 22 of 23, that's not too shit. Like I said on this morning's show, you can go to Vegas, make a little money going 21 of 23.
But anyway,
the point with what Lewis was getting into, and I agree with him, was, and let me preface this again. I'm going to say this one more time because the internet's having way too much fun with this. The Smiths' particular lifestyle and how they have their relationship, that I don't care. That's not my business. They're free to do whatever they want, but that stuff's all out there. You can go look it up. I'm just going to deal with I'm not going to psychoanalyze people. I'm just going to go off the behavior I see, right?
Right, actions.
The behavior I saw was he was laughing. He noticed it hurt his wife. I get that reaction. We all have that reaction. Man, I got 4 daughters. I can go split second laughing to ticked and violent in a split second over my daughters.
Oh yeah,
because I'm a dad. That's a natural emotion. Here's your problem. Words are not violence, no matter how much people in our current society want to tell you. And most of those people are people who have never been in a fight in their life and just don't know the difference, quite frankly. You cannot stride on stage and physically attack somebody. And I know it's a slap. The internet is so stupid. Twitter's all day like, well, a slap's okay. You just can't punch anybody. Like, no, a slap will still get you put in jail if you're not a movie star. So let's be real here.
Or a politician.
Go downtown and slap somebody in front of the Murchison building in downtown Wilmington and see what happens. If you're not Will Smith, you're going to go to jail. You're probably going to catch a civil lawsuit at minimum. So let's dispel that myth. No, you can't go on stage. The fact that he is so privileged that he can stride on stage, smack somebody, and go back and sit in his seat, and then 20 minutes later get up and get his Academy Award anyway. That's freaking privilege, man.
And
now,
I got something on that.
Yeah.
For the first time that I can remember, we have a first that does not have gender or race associated with it. Like, it's no longer the first woman or the first black person. Will Smith, if this happens, Will Smith will be the first person ever to win and lose an Academy Award.
They're not going to take the Academy Award. Let's be real here. The Academy and the Oscars have been getting their head kicked in for they've been getting their head kicked in for a couple of years now over diversity. Remember, last year's big thing was they completely botched the Chadwick Boseman tribute, the star of Black Panther who tragically died of cancer. they do all this tribute stuff, and then they were setting it up for him to posthumously win the award, and then he didn't win the award, and everybody's like, what the crap was that? So the feeling, this is not my opinion, this is what a lot of people felt. Let me preface this a little bit. The feeling was that they basically exploited it and built it up and then did whatever they wanted to do after holding him up. They've had diversity issues for a while. Okay. Will Smith is only the 5th black man to win Best Actor.
Right.
They've been doing this since 1929. He's only the 5th, and 3 of those have been in the last 15 years.
Understood.
Because Sidney Poitier won it, and then there was a long stretch. Remember when Denzel Washington won it for Training Day in 2001, I believe, 2000 or 2001. Sidney Poitier was getting his Lifetime Achievement, and he was the first since Poitier to get it. Man. Like that's how long these things have gone. They're not going to take it away. They really would burn the place down if they took it away from one of the few black actors to get that recognition. So that's not going to happen. Also, the thing did great ratings. It did like a 15. That's an NFL playoff game. Like a meaningful NFL playoff game will get a 13 to a 15. That's a big number for the Oscars. Now, like Lewis pointed out, used to be the Oscars would get like a 30. And you're an old TV guy. 30 rating is like
that's $1 million 30-second spot.
Yeah, the Super Bowl gets like a 62. An NFL playoff game will get a 15. The State of the Union gets like a 10 to a 20, depending on the president. Like that's rarefied air in TV. So if you're getting a 15, you're doing okay.
And that's
but
really
the other thing, well, the thing about, and you know how ratings work, that's pre 11 p.m. ratings because the 11 p.m. ratings come out separately, and it was a 3-hour show, and the slap actually happened towards the end of that. So the ratings were already up for whatever reason. Now, here's how this goes. What do they do with this? They're not going to take the Oscar away. They could tell him not to come back next year. They could get real extreme and kick him out of the Academy. I don't think they're going to do that either. But let's talk about the hypocrisy here, because these are the same people that gave Roman Polanski not only an Oscar, but gave him a 5-minute video package. And it's a meme now of Meryl Streep and all these Hollywood stars vigorously applauding him, who like to give Quaaludes to 12 and 13-year-old girls and rape them. And this was known so much so that he fled and lives overseas ever since because he doesn't want to go to jail for it. All right. The Academy is all kinds of hypocrisy. I'm just picking him out. You can go down. It's a long,
ever since
long
1929.
list. There is a long, long list of just wretchedly bad human beings that the Academy covers up for, because that's what Hollywood does. Let's not even get into the casting system. Let's not talk about how they deal with child stars. Let's not talk about all the mess that goes with Hollywood. It's a dirty, dirty business. So for them to take it away from him for this, now you want to say he assaulted a guy? Okay, fine. Chris Rock's not going to press charges. Come on now. This is the best thing ever happened to Chris Rock. He's going to be making money off this for 20 years.
He's going to make a movie out of it.
By the way, Homeboy didn't take a step back. He kind of did the boxing dip and pop back up to absorb a punch, but he didn't take a step back and pushed right on and kept talking like that. That's a pro there, ladies and gentlemen. He got slapped on stage by the biggest star in Hollywood and just kept on going. Pro move for Chris Rock there. He'll come out of this $1 million. I don't know what they do with this. The Academy is a mess. There's a big thing. Lewis on Heard Tell this morning. Please go listen to it. It'll replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. If you missed it, you can find it on YouTube and or all the podcasting platforms. Heard Tell. Lewis is great. I mean this. Go follow him. Go follow him on Twitter. Follow him on social media. His Substack's free. Sign up for his Substack, Mendez Movie Report, RTP. He's fantastic. And he's like, look, what's happening is eventually the big headline for last night was supposed to be that the streaming services won an Academy Award for Best Picture last night because Coda that won was an Apple picture. And Netflix once again wet the bed despite spending millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to get their Oscar. They blew it again because of the stuff with Jane Campion that I'm not going to waste your time here, Willon. But she was actually the big controversy going into this before that happened because of comments that she had made. Some people may know she's the one that started fighting with Sam Elliott over what was and wasn't a Western a couple weeks ago. That kind of made some rounds on social media.
I'm glad I missed that.
But the thing about it is he's like, they're changing, and what he thinks is going to happen, and I agree. I don't think the Oscars are going to be on network TV much longer. I think they're going to get moved over to the streaming services. because all the money in movies right now is the streaming services. So at some point they're going to be like, well, we're getting screwed here. Let's just move the whole awards show to the streaming services and see if we can't get some respect that way. I think that's where it's going. It's going to become a niche thing. It's no longer, they're still trying to present it as this mass population event, and it just isn't. There's a huge disconnect between what the Academy likes and what the normal people like. So I agree with Lewis. I think you'll see this move over to the streaming platforms here within the next, not immediately, because 15's you're single digits the things that get a 15 rating during the year, right?
Right.
Outside of sports, like NFL playoff game, NBA finals might get that number, college football final might get that number.
I would throw this
15's
option in here. So the Oscars actually is an entertainment package that airs for 2.5, 3 hours or so, with a lot of commercials in there.
Pushing 4
You
last
have a
night with all
Mountain
that.
Dew. I am proud of you, my friend. Thank you. That's.
You didn't see that because I'm not supposed to be drinking these, but I needed some caffeine today.
So.
Thanks for outing me, you jerk.
Yeah, well,
Do I need to start talking about some of the substances you use to stay vertical on air? You really want to go
Sure,
there?
I am proud of that. It seems that
On a scale of 1 to Chong, just how happy are we today?
let's see. I got to put it at that 70s show. If that helps you out, you're welcome.
Anyway, before we get the cops after us.
The entertainment package is usually about the fancy stuff that people care about. The leading actor, the best movie, that sort of thing. But there's 1,000 other awards for the stupid stuff that people like me do. But that never hits the air. You don't hear about the gaffers, the grips, you might hear about the director, but there's a ton of other technical awards that it would make sense to maintain the entertainment aspect on air, and
that was
move
the stink. That was the stink this year because they cut, I think, 7 or 8 of the technical categories that weren't going to get on TV, and the rank and file were in fact, some of the big stars too were pretty upset at that. They're like, well, wait a minute, this is their one time of the year we recognize them.
I bet they get their own show on streaming.
There was big ticket. I think editing was one of them, which is a huge, like, for inside. The people that actually make money, or excuse me, not money. Well, they make a lot of money, but the people that actually make movies, the technical awards are what they're really. Editing is a big deal in the movie. If you're the best editor, that's a big freaking deal. That's huge. That's a career-making
you may not be
deal.
recognized when you go to the grocery store. You're not going to get mobbed when you go to a nightclub.
But your career is made. If you have, if you have a best editing Oscar, you're picking your jobs for the rest of your life.
Yep.
I believe Dune won best editing, which it should have. It was the narrative was a hot mess, but boy, that's about as pretty a motion picture you've ever watched. I watched it with the girls the other night. I watched it with the girls the other night. It is brilliantly made. It's lush. You're an audiovisual guy. Like,
how long
it's just,
is it? Like 3 hours?
240, I think.
Good night.
But it clips along. It's lush.
Now, how much? Like,
it might be the best. Don't bow up on me here. It might be the best soundtrack for the visuals you're seeing that I've ever seen. It may be not the best soundtrack ever. That's John Williams is 1 through 15 on that list, but it may be the best soundtrack matching the visuals of a movie I've ever seen. And the visuals are next level. It is one of the most gorgeous films you've ever seen visually, and the soundtrack is perfect for the movie. Hans Zimmer did it.
And
so the experience of it is awesome. The plot's hard to keep up with if you don't know the
politics
backstory.
is going to be really hard to not bog down in.
Denis Villeneuve, who's as good a director as we got, he, A plus list cast, like it's a who's who list cast. They did everything they could do with it without bogging it down in exposition to try to explain it. But there's gaps, man. There's just so much. Remember, Dune was considered the unfilmable book for years.
Oh yeah, that's why there's 2 versions, because each one was like, I can do it better because there's so much you're leaving out. I can do it better.
And I actually like the Lynch version, but let's not get into that. I know it's kind of the cult classic now, but I actually like the Lynch version. I thought it was
the one with
clever.
Sting?
That's the one with Sting and Kyle MacLachlan
that one had
from
a little more
Twin
bite
Peaks.
to it.
It had
Herbert's.
It had you know what it had a personality.
That has to be it, because the first.
You know what
one
I'm
was just
saying?
Flat.
It had a personality too. Like, it didn't get the book, but you're not going to get the book no matter what. So it said, okay, we're not going to have the book, so we're going to it's almost like a pro wrestling character where it's like Scott Hall just died. He played Razor Ramon. Well, he's not a Hispanic guy, but he played this super machismo Cuban guy, basically like a Scarface kind of guy. That was the character. Well, he's not Hispanic, but he's so embodied that everybody thought he was. That's kind of how the David Lynch movie. He's like, all right, we're not really going to be the book, but we're just going to get the character and just totally sell out and go with it. And it came out campy, but you go back and watch it now, it's fun. Like it's not, it's goofy because it's early 80s. I forget, what was it, 84? I think that came out.
Something like that.
You know, it's got some goofy to it, but it's like pro wrestling where I know it's goofy, but that guy's taking it so seriously, and what he's doing with it makes me want to believe that it's real, even though I know it's not. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
That's how the David Lynch movie hit with me. Is like, all right, this is utterly preposterous, but they're going for it and they're selling it so hard. I'm interested. I'll watch it. It's like Cats on stage, the musical Cats, not the horrible movie, but it's like, this is so over the top, just bonkers nuts, but they're selling it out and it's so like, just go with it. You know what I mean? And
it becomes a fun distraction rather than, but the concept behind the book, the battle of power, and of course having the one thing.
It's just classical. Yeah, it's classical themes. It's
it's just done over
a messianic character. You have betrayal to set up his rise. Like it's just real classic. Yeah, guy with father issues. Stop me if you heard. I had to explain to my kids watching this. They're like, so it's like Star Wars. I'm like, no, this predates Star Wars by like 10 years. In fact, if you go back and look, Lucas got accused of ripping some of his stuff off, especially, Arrakis being Tatooine's a desert planet, Arrakis a desert. I don't know how true any of that is. I doubt it, because I don't buy that, because George Lucas was drawing mostly from the serials of the 30s and from Japan. In fact, he had Kurosawa on set. There's pictures of Kurosawa on the legendary Japanese director.
Yeah.
There's pictures of him on set during Empire. George Lucas invited him to come and tour the set. There's actually pictures of him on the set during Empire Strikes Back. He just blatantly ripped off Kurosawa for most of Star Wars. He just put it in space instead of a samurai movie. But that's all. A New Hope is actually almost verbatim a Kurosawa movie called The Fortress. I think, is it The Fortress or The Mighty Fortress or something like that? It's just the Death Star instead of the Fortress. It's the exact same. Like he ripped it off and remixed it, because there's nothing new in Hollywood. Everybody's stealing something from somebody.
And
so
it's
anyway,
an homage if you can blend
it's an homage.
If you can blend it with some sense of originality.
Right. But anyway, the point was, I was telling the kids, I was like, no, Dune predates Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. And the book predates that.
And the book was late 60s, I believe. Frank Herbert wrote that. I believe it came out in the mid to late 60s. He wrote it in the 60s, and I think it came out like 68, 69, something like that. But it's a lush movie. It's one of the best soundtracks. It's some of the best. The sound, I hope they won an Oscar for sound. I don't have it in front of me. You can go look. The sound quality of that movie is superb. Like, they got every little detail right. There's little details in the direction that I look for when I watch a movie. There's just some little subtle stuff that's just exceptional. Like when the bad guy lies to somebody about something he's going to do, and he's going to talk to his advisor about it. There's this long pause, and Stellan Skarsgård's such a good actor. He's just brilliant. He's wearing this giant fat suit, right?
Yeah.
But so he's acting with basically just his head, because he can't move anything else, literally. He does this little thing with his head when the Reverend Mother leaves the room. He just kind of starts letting his head drift to the right, just ever so slowly. We actually backed it up and watched it a couple times. I want to make sure I saw this right. He starts letting his head drift ever so slightly to the right, like I'm doing right now on the camera. And there's this long pause, and then he talks to the advisors about, we're going to screw him, basically. Right? What was he doing? He was letting her get out of the room. Like, how many movies miss that beat, though? Like, they'll just go straight into the next thing of like, because the guy's like, my lord, you promised him. And he goes, so I shall. So I'm not going to kill him. I'm just going to drop him off in the middle of the desert so they die, and then I can say I didn't kill him. That's kind of the scene, right?
Right.
And then, but there's that pause of like 10 or 15 seconds. It's not that long, but on a movie, it feels longer. And he does that little thing with his head where it just stays on him for like a couple of seconds. And you go back and realize, like, oh, he was waiting for her to leave the room, so she couldn't hear him.
Yep.
Just little details like that I appreciate. But the plot's hard. It's
Well,
there was
it's
people in my
Atreides.
household that didn't like it because they couldn't get They couldn't get into the plot, which I get. Like, if you don't know what's going on, I'm not sure there's enough there if you don't know anything at all about it going in that you could keep up with it. The fans loved it. Michael Siegel, who's our buddy that we like so much, that does it. He said, this is the Dune I've waited all my life for. You know, he's a huge fan of it. In fact, maybe that's how I can get him on your show. You can talk about Dune for 30 minutes.
Well, apparently the full Dune canon is a total of 24 books.
Okay.
The first one published in 1965.
The first book is one of the classics of literature, especially sci-fi literature. Everything after that gets progressively worse. I'm just going to throw that out there. But the first book's great. Everything after that gets really weird really fast.
And the movie is really just the first book, which is basically...
No, the movie is the first third of the book. That was the thing that got my teenagers were really upset.
So they didn't even
when
get through it.
No, the title card comes up and says part 1. They're like, oh, crap, part 1. Like, they were mad right off the jump.
Well, let's hope it's a
But
Peter Jackson.
they broke it. Villeneuve, excuse me. Villeneuve is a basketball player. He broke it right where he needed to. So I don't know how they're going to do the second movie. It really needs to be 3 unless they're going to really jumpstart through some stuff, which they're probably going to have to. But they clipped it along and got it, so they broke it right where I think they should have.
All right. But it does have
Speaking
a
of
War
breaks.
of the Roses kind of thing.
Well, I
as
mean, it's
part
a
of it.
classic. It's a classic. The Emperor's out to get me.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a classic thing. So
Power grabs.
you already know, spoiler alert, you know, the main character is going to wind up being the Emperor somewhere in here because that's how that goes, you know. we got to have an Emperor.
We saw that in a Peter Jackson movie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
guys.
speaking of breaks and long pauses and talking too much.
Well, you heard the station blew up this morning. That was fun.
I was in the car with my kid and we're like,
Why
what's
am I
TK
hearing
doing?
three
And
different
she,
chunks of music?
I said, what's TK doing? And she goes, he's speaking in tongues. I'm like, and I thought she was joking. I'm like, what? She's like, no, seriously. And she turned it up and it was like, I was like, okay then.
Well, yeah, Windows decided to have a little issue this morning. I had to reset it, restart it, had some dead air. That was fun.
I didn't know if your special friend stopped by with this week's delivery or what happened there. So
No, that was a week
whatever.
ago.
TK, take a break.
We'll be right back with more after. There it is. That part works. Look at that. I have fixed just about everything. We'll be right back at the Asylum. Your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. Don't go nowhere.
Keeping Holden Beach informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
Listen to Tom Goolsby on The Chad Adams Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to the program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. 3 days of negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian delegations begin today in Turkey. After more than a month of war, Ukrainian officials are hoping a ceasefire can come from this round of talks. To bolster NATO readiness, the Pentagon announced it is deploying 6 Growler aircraft to Germany. The planes can jam or confuse enemy radar. Closer to home, dry conditions are increasing the possibility of wildfires across western North Carolina. There are ongoing efforts in the battle to put out a fire in Swain County that stretches into the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The fire covers about 750 acres. Fire officials say about 30% of it is contained now, and they expect to make a bigger dent into that number as weather conditions improve. About 70 firefighters are on the ground from multiple agencies. There are currently no evacuation orders, and there have been no injuries reported. In New Hanover County, Cape Fear Public Utility Authority released its annual drinking water quality report. The EPA requires drinking water providers to report their water quality and what's been found in the water, sometimes down to the parts per trillion. Certain contaminants are allowed to be found in our water as long as it doesn't surpass the EPA's and states' set limits. CFPUA had no water quality violations last year. And it may not feel like it, but there's some good news at the pump. Average gasoline prices in North Carolina have fallen 5.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price across the state is $4.02 a gallon, according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 gas stations in North Carolina. Despite the slight decline this week, prices in North Carolina are 47 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and stand more than $1.40 higher than a year ago. The national average price of gasoline remains at $4.23 a gallon. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Today's going to be the coolest day of the work week, so be sure to have a jacket with you at all times. We're starting the morning off in the middle and upper 30s and only going to make it into the middle 50s for afternoon highs, 15 degrees below the average. And we are going to see some sunshine and some high cirrus clouds throughout the day today, but for tonight, partly cloudy skies will be in store for us. Light winds out of the south and temperatures falling down into the middle and the upper 40s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
If you want to talk about culture and politics without all the caterwauling, then you'll love Hertel Radio with me, your host, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning, 6 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. Catch it on the Listen Live tab on the app or watch on the Facebook page.
Tune in to the WWAY News at 6 p.m.
Thank you for joining us tonight for Your News at 6. I'm Hannah Patrick.
I'm Randy Aldridge. We want to get straight to our WWAY team coverage of last night.
For the biggest and most compelling stories that make a difference.
On the scene shortly after the blaze began and has the story now.
Leland is one of the fastest growing towns in the country.
First court appearance this morning in Pender County.
WWAY News at 6 p.m. This is the place.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Time to rise and shine. That's right. Here on the Asylum, working the professional syndicated quality radio program that we are, and, carrying you into the new week here on a wonderful cold Tuesday here in southeastern North Carolina. And the most fun thing about this morning is having my friend Andrew Donaldson, who has a real good handle on the pulse of culture here in the United States. And we've been, dragging and unpacking the event at the event the other night, but I think we're going to pivot to something that's a little bit more interesting. It's a story by Oscar Gordon on ordinary-times.com, and it was brought to my attention by Andrew himself.
Yeah, I love Oscar. He does. He'll do Tech Tuesdays. He's a rocket scientist.
Ah, okay. Another NASA guy.
Well, not NASA. He works for the Navy and jet propulsion and this sort of thing.
Well, still that
really,
type of brain.
Yeah, really sharp dude. He does. He used to write a Tech Tuesday feature for us all the time. He does it sporadically now because he changed jobs. By the way, if you're not reading ordinary-times.com, we're really, really, really proud of this website. Like it's
a lot of fun.
Pretty. It's unique. It's very unique. If you like culture and politics, we cover everything. We have gaming on the weekends. We have a music feature. Our buddy DW Dar Whipple, who just moved down. He's local now. He moved down to Florence here a couple of months ago. Yeah, so we're gonna get him in sometime soon. He writes a music feature every Saturday now. We have a literature feature every Sunday morning, and then all week long it's culture and politics. And you're gonna read stuff that you're not gonna like. You're gonna read stuff you disagree with because we're Marshall 71 football, man. We take everybody. We want it, and it's one of the most. It's been around a long time. I've been there 4 years, but it's been around 15 years, and it was on the discussion boards, list servers before that. It's a long history of really, really good writing. We're very proud of it. It doesn't cost you a dime, and it's a unique space of creators and writers that you're just not going to see and hear anywhere else. And I'm very, very proud of it. So just quick plug for Ordinary Times because we love it so much. M, that's been on this show with us, she does a legal feature every Wednesday, for example. Great stuff. But anyway, Oscar usually does Tech Tuesday. And I have a running joke when I talk. I say, well, I'm going to need a flow chart. And that usually just means you're saying something so complicated I need a flow chart for it. Oscar gave me a flow chart, like a literal flow chart, because this is about the laminar flow. Now, if you don't know what this is, I'm going to read this to you, but you need to go to ordinary-times.com. It's feature piece right on the front page, ordinary-times.com. I'm sure TK will link it into the Facebook post for folks. Won't you, TK?
I'm doing that now, actually.
This is fantastic stuff. So he said, in fluid mechanics, laminar flow is even and layered. If this helps, think of a molecule of a fluid traveling from point A to point B. In laminar flow, that molecule will follow a straight line. For the most part, it'll weeble and wobble a bit, but the direction of travel always points towards B. Everybody with me so far? If the flow is turbulent, think about the river you've been talking about with Dr. Who's a What's It from where's it?
Dr. Cahoon from the CapeFearRiverWatch.org.
That'd be him. Yep. If the flow is turbulent, this is the key. If the flow of water is turbulent, that molecule will be all over the place. It will eventually get to point B, but along the way it goes up, down, left, right, backwards, spins. Everybody's seen
lose
turbulent
a lot
water,
of energy.
right? There you go. Another feature of fluid mechanics is what we call the no-slip condition. This states that if a fluid has a viscosity, everybody knows viscosity from the old oil commercials on TV, right? That's how thick it is. A viscosity greater than 0, some of the molecules of that fluid will stick to any given surface, which we call the wall, in quotes, the wall. That's anything it's going to stick to, right?
Like the inside wall of a tube or a pipe.
A tube, a pipe, whatever. They travel along, causing the fluid at the wall to have a velocity of 0. This is what we call lubrication, right? Because some of it's already on the wall, so whatever substance is going past it, it's like-minded material. It just goes right on past without sticking because that first little bit of viscosity is already stuck to it. Everybody with me so far? Same way your non-stick pans in the kitchen work. You get that first layer on there, now it's non-stick, right? Since the fluid at the wall has a velocity of 0, the molecules just a bit away from the wall will have a velocity a smidge above 0 because they're passing by. And the molecules even further away will have even more velocity based on how far away it is from the wall until you get to what we call the free stream, where the fluid molecules are not feeling the effects of the wall at all. The region between the wall and the free stream is called the boundary layer. Now, this is a lot of science, so just stay with me. Yep. So it is within this laminar boundary layer that my analogy lives. Imagine a laminar boundary layer. That's the layer between the wall where stuff sticks and the free stream where nothing sticks, right? The fluid all nice and layered near the wall, moving kind of slow but very even. As you move away from the wall, the fluid becomes faster. As it approaches free stream, and thus is at a higher risk for becoming turbulent, especially if it encounters an obstruction. Think of this as a flow of public perception. Now imagine all of us regular low profile people exist near the wall. We're not seen, we're not part of the public perception, the discourse as we call it. The closer you are to the free stream, the more you are in the public perception. Think of the free stream as the widespread frame. Will Smith and Chris Rock exist in the full time of the free stream, as do most politicians. We were just talking about this morning, right, TK?
Yep.
Now for my theory. This is Oscar Gordon writing in ordinary-times.com. Cancel culture, or cancellating somebody, is for the most part elites trolling the masses. Not the elites who think full-time in the free stream. That's the Will Smiths, the superstars, the politicians. But those a bit further down. The ones who think of themselves as elite, or they want to be elite, but they don't want to be in the free stream. Those elites like to be able to say whatever crosses their mind, but they don't like being forced into the turbulence of the free stream because they don't really like the taste of shoe leather when they shove their foots in their own mouths. What's my evidence for this? It's who's setting the narrative. It's all the news links I see that are clickbait about the latest hot take about some problematic bit of entertainment. Hot takes that usually ignore massive amounts of context that undercut the entire argument for X being problematic, all to stir up trouble for the creators of the media or signaling on the part of the author of the essay, or news links telling me that some offensive brain dropping on social media has gone viral without the media ever really having to prove it went viral before it ran the story. In other words, is something truly going viral if the mass media puts it on blast when it's only gotten a couple hundred retweets or what have you? In short, think of all the times you've heard about a cancellation or a potential cancellation of a nobody going viral, and then think about how often you've heard about that thing before the media reported on it. Everybody with me?
Yep.
You can probably count it on one hand and still have enough fingers to drink a cup of tea. So what's the motivation? Partly it's the clicks, baby. Got to bring in those advertising dollars. Or as TK calls it, we got to sell
cars, candy bars, and carpets.
That's my boy. But in my humble but accurate opinion, it is also the measure of self-preservation. If those of us who are close to zero existence in the public perception, those of us closest to the wall, become afraid of being forced into the turbulence, we will become less tolerant of the people who engage in public shaming regardless of the righteousness of it. So the media likes to shove a stick in the flow and expose everybody to the turbulence so that we all feel anxiety. It's the media expertly trolling us. They want us to have a negative reaction to the cancellation. And that is what they are getting. It's expert level because the media gets to lay the blame for inciting a negative reaction at somebody else's feet, whoever tried to start the cancellation. It's along the same veins, if not the same alignment, of media reporting on violent crime. Listen to this. This is going to hit home for you news station folks. Media attention believes the reality of violent crime. Violent crime is actually trending down, and it tends to be isolated to people already involved in crime and violence, i.e. it doesn't happen to random people in middle-class suburbs very often, and when it does, it's all over TV. That's why, because it's so rare. Crime usually happens in underdeveloped neighborhoods, urban neighborhoods, crime-riven neighborhoods, except by random chance. Where I live, we are much more likely to be victims of a catalytic converter thieves and porch pirates than gum crime, but people don't fear porch pirates and catalytic converter thieves. They fear violent crime to a greater degree because that's what's on their televisions. Media is aware of its power. It's naive to think they don't exercise it whenever they can. So before we as a people get upset over some Twitter mob pylon on some schlub, think about the how and the why you even are aware of said cancellation. And instead of venting your spleen at a nameless woke activist, save some of that ire for the media that chooses to blast some nobody out of the water. Because chances are pretty good if the media hadn't decided to run the story, the extent of the viral post would be limited to a couple hundred annoying activists that were easy to ignore. That is Oscar Gordon writing in ordinary-times.com, and he even has a flowchart.
That dart is remarkably
freaking
close
brilliant.
to, I mean, for somebody who hasn't worked, because he's a genius, but he's not been.
He's a scientific engineer guy. He can break this stuff down, but
right. But the comparison to the industry that I've been in is quite interesting. That it's entirely accurate from a point of view that's not exercised all the way around very often. And his points, to be fair, have a logical history to them, if that makes sense. Because it's the unique, it's the extreme that gets people's attention, and when you have their attention, you can sell them cars, candy bars, and carpets.
Correct.
So the extreme and the controversial, when David Bowie kissed Mick Ronson on stage at his first American concert back in, 68 or 69, it caused such an uproar within a week that half of his American shows were canceled. All the other shows sold out, and those promoters doubled up their shows and sold those out. So he actually...
Which was the point.
Right. His point, basically was, now that I've created a stir, everybody wants to see it. The infamous wardrobe malfunction got more views than the game or the halftime show itself on the order of 3 or 4 times, right? So this is an accurate representation of who we are, is what I like to call casualty vampires. We feed on the blood of others, whether it's a car wreck or a murder or something like that. The things that really affect us, like our politicians and our elections and our issues and bond hearings and things like that, aren't exciting. And they don't sell the cars, the candy bars, and carpets, or get the clicks or whatever it is.
Right.
So that accurate representation would say, all right, as a industry trolling the public, this is probably the most unique view of that, because it isn't necessarily evil. What it is a business model to maintain an income stream. And knowing the psychology of our audience, knows that we can, which is why we struggle to get our audience started, but we gain momentum because we're more mature, we're more level-headed, as opposed to what people have been getting burned out on, chafed on.
Well, that's in the flow chart too, is we're moving in a straight line. We're not doing all the dancing around, spinning around, tossed around. If you can stay steady and consistent, you're going to get to the same place, but you get there efficiently and without wearing yourself out on all the nonsense.
Yep. And
that's all it is yeah.
But stirring
because
the pot
people yeah, but it's hamster on the wheel stuff, man, because you're confusing activity for achievement. Like, you're exerting a lot of effort, but you're not really doing anything. You're not accomplishing anything. You're just wearing yourself out.
Well, depending on your news outlet, whether it's opinion news or accurate news, again, they all have to be supported by advertising. And you can't do that without eyeballs. And in order to get eyeballs, you usually have to sell to a camp that's already existent.
Correct.
So with, some of the more famous 3-letter Johnny-come-lately networks that have gone into this extreme opinion swath, I think they have like a 12-hour chunk, nonstop, 12 hours of opinion programming based on news, selling to a base that's already there.
Right.
So to make that profitable, they have to take it extreme. They always have to run the extreme stories to keep, it's like an addiction.
Well, it's limiting, because I had my buddy Coop on a couple, maybe two months ago. Yeah, Coop from, he runs, he's the operations manager for WCHS, the big talk radio station back home where I'm from in West Virginia. I've been doing radio forever. He knows all the ins and outs and stuff. And me and him were talking about this, was like, that Rush Limbaugh model is gone. Like, the business model of it. You're never going to have that again, because now the audience is so fractured. You're not going to get an audience big enough to keep that sustainable, because it's what you're talking about. That audience captures the new term for that.
Right.
Rush had 20 million listeners. Okay. Nobody's getting that number now. And the thing about it is if you're going to do content specific, and this could be liberal or conservative, but we'll use conservative since that's the
who we are.
They've had the better luck with talk radio formats, and we're more conservative ourselves, and the station's conservative. There's a difference between audience capture and pigeonholing yourself. And what's happening with these organizations right now is they're so busy capturing the audience and trying to get the audience engaged just for the advertising revenue.
Yep.
The audience will drag you places that business-wise you should have no business going into. And what they're finding out, and what a lot of these new ventures have found out in the age of Donald Trump, is if that's all you talk about, the only people you're going to get are the people that want to talk about that all day long. And that group of people is very, very small.
And getting smaller.
For or against. There's all these people that are anti-Trump. I got somebody who's a good friend. I respect them greatly. I treasure their opinion on things. There's people at their organization every single day. It's something about Trump. And I was like, that's toxic, man. Like every single day, this person's whole existence is writing about Donald Trump, how horrible he is. And I'm like, even if he was as horrible as you think he is, and he may well be, I don't think it's to the extent they take it. Because I could read and I knew what Donald Trump was when he showed up. I had no illusions about it to start with, so I didn't need to be educated on it. I'm like, why? Even when I agree with you, I don't read that individual's work because I know every day what they're saying because they say the same thing every day. It's just a new spin on it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
Like even when I agree with that person, I don't bother reading their stuff because I already know what they're saying all the time.
Because they just told me.
You know, they've
telling
told me
right
that
now.
my entire existence is wrapped up in this one person. That's all I'm going to talk about. Well, okay, but you know, politics is 40% of my day. What am I doing with the other 60%? What else you got for me?
And I just have a aversion to worshiping any one person. But that's me.
I got an aversion to worshiping one person, and I've got a real aversion, and I've got a real problem with people who tell me they hate somebody or somebody's evil, but they base their entire life around that person.
Right.
I got a real problem with that because I've seen a lot of that in the Trump age. People who, and look, I got my issues with Donald Trump too, but what are you telling me about you when you tell me you can pick anybody you want? You know, pick Joe Manchin, been hot for a week for the last year, right? Pick whoever you want. If everything you're doing is being dictated to you by that person that you're telling me is so awful, what's that tell me about you as a person that you're letting that person run your life?
And renting that much space in your head.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. I just that one almost bothers me. At least I understand a sycophant. I don't understand this obsession with somebody. You know, if you're going to go all Ahab over every white whale that floats by, you're going to have a real miserable life.
And it does sound uneventful overall.
Correct.
Ha. But in his, I'm still exploring this because it's so much fun.
And a flowchart.
And the flowchart. Well, I don't know if it's more of a flowchart as it is a cross-sectional illustration.
It's literally called the laminar flowchart. So even if it's not a technical flowchart, it's a flowchart. That's why I love it so much.
Ah, you got tweaked.
I got tweaked, baby.
Right, because it's laminar flow, and it's a chart.
It's a flow chart of the laminar flow, so it's a flow chart.
No, it would be a laminar flow.
I have you.
But this is actually a chart of laminar flow.
So it's still a flow chart.
So
I have you. I have you now.
It's an illustration of laminar flow.
This is like tic-tac-toe when I got you either which way. You're done. It's a flow chart.
I still have the X in the center. So
no, you don't. This is a flow chart. I got you now, you hippie.
Now, what's interesting is in that turbulence is where the money is. Because the people that are holding to the wall are usually going to be like on the straight and narrow. They're, letting stuff go by without getting caught up and attached to it. Right? So they're going to be the people that are getting tumbled around and in that public flow, in that, what do you call it, the free space?
Free stream.
Free stream. Those are the people that are buying Gucci bags and Ray-Ban sunglasses and driving Mercedes trying to keep up with the Joneses kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where the people in the laminar flow are just marching through, just getting it done. Right? So I think...
But it's not Gucci, but you know what it is? It's what they're doing. They're buying Teslas and donating to political parties.
Well, whatever the case may be, whereas the people that are in the laminar flow that are trying to stay balanced aren't getting tripped up by this because their focus and their interest in the things that are important to them are internal, like family.
Correct.
Right? Where these people that are in the free stream need to be seen by other people in the free stream. That's why restaurants have particular booths so that you can be seen eating in that restaurant when somebody comes in.
I would think so.
And that's, this is a psychology that's been based on getting money out of our wallets and into somebody else's pocket since money was invented. I mean, it's the whole reason why we have counterfeit measures on our currency and coins. Goes back to this same development of how do I get the money out of your pocket and into mine. And that free stream concept, the way anything that we can do to stir up that free stream would give us more of that financial yield. So yeah, we're going to sell cars, candy bars, and carpets with the most amount of chaos possible, because the chaos is not what we care about. It's the money we care about. And by creating chaos, people will throw money at it, trying to get back to where the laminar flow is.
Yeah.
So rather than settling their own lives and becoming less concerned with extroverted acceptance or validation, I guess, they're actually comfortable with who they are in their own skin, and they can march to, day to day without getting
Correct.
caught up.
I kid these people that want to talk about being free thinking. I'm like, there's a difference between being free thinking and being unmoored. And too many people are unmoored. And like, you can be free thinking, but you got to be within the system a little bit.
And that applies, another concept, working with a young guy at a video facility. And he came out with an edit that was just, it was perfect. If you were, like a Twitch gamer playing Fortnite. The problem is, and I had to, gently correct and sort of urge or nudge it into a new direction, was to illustrate that's well and good, and you're young and you're a gamer, but your audience is 40-year-old business professionals. They don't have the same Ritalin-addicted ADHD teen gamer mindset. So the look and the flow and the image you're portraying is not yours, it's somebody else's. And that's
Here's the thing.
It gets you out of your own head to realize that your interaction with another company is going to be their image that you're manipulating. Does that make sense?
You have to know your audience.
Yes.
Like, we've talked about this before, because we have to do sales with the radio stuff. I can do sales, but I'm even pretty good at sales, but I'm not great at it, because to be great at it, you got to like to do it. Like, there's no way to fake it, right? And the reason you have to be great at sales, like, I can do it, and I'm even good at it when I can be good at it because I've got people skills and things like that. But to be great at sales, you gotta love doing sales.
And
Like,
there's
there's
a
no
difference
way to
between
fake it.
selling and sales. Like,
Yeah, there's a
I
huge
sell
difference.
this station every day because I love what this station does, and I love making this station do it. So selling the station as an entity is no problem, but getting a contract signed, that's sales.
And it goes to what you were just saying, because it's a mentality. You have to know your audience. Like, if I go, like, when I do stuff with Young Voices, we did the event last week in Raleigh, talking about people that wanted to get into podcasting and broadcasting and things like this.
Right.
We're in a room, there's 70 people in the room. Room was sold out. The first thing I did was I talked to the event organizer. I'm like, who's in this room? Oh, well, the local Libertarian Party is going to be here. They're bringing their whole crew, so it's going to be 60, 70% Libertarians. Right?
Okay.
So I had two concerns. One is, now I got to do public speaking in a room with a bunch of Libertarians with an open bar, so that concerned me. Number two, I'm kidding. No, it was a great event. Tobacco Road, anybody's ever ate one of the Tobacco Roads, either in Durham or Raleigh? We were at the Raleigh one. Fantastic venue. But the reason I do that, and I'm to be serious, is I ask them who the audience is, because now I can curtail what I'm going to say to the audience.
Okay.
It would be stupid for me to go in there if I got a
Cold.
room full of libertarians and start talking about how much I enjoyed being in the military and waging war and killing babies and whatever, right? Because they're all libertarians, they're all anti-war, they're all, pacifist, non-aggression principles, that kind of stuff. And I'm using an extreme example, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yep.
I don't want to go in there and talk about certain government policies, because they wouldn't be receptive to that. It's not changing what I believe or what I say, but I have to tailor what I'm going to say to the audience. Whereas if I had like when I go on Young Turks with Dr. Rashad Ritchie's show, which I've done frequently, and I really love going on that show, because it's a huge challenge for me. it's hard, and he's sharp, and it's enemy territory, and I got to really watch what I'm doing, right? Because he's super
You
intelligent,
got to be
and
prepared. You got to know.
dude, if you go in there, you better be correct when you walk in there. You're going to wind up on a meme. But the reason I do that, I have to tailor what I'm going to say to his audience because his audience is very super progressive. And I want to, you'll still get all the idiots, but I don't read the comments a lot. But when I do Richie's show, I always go back and read the comments. And man, you get like every 8th or 9th or 10th comment on there, you're going to be like, huh, that was actually a conservative I enjoyed listening to. I didn't expect that. Like you get those kind of people. So you want to tailor your messages, what you're saying.
Right, yes.
And that's the thing why I brought up sales. Because to be really great at sales, you have to be completely 100% committed to it.
And you can sell socks or stocks. It makes no difference.
Yeah. And do it in a way that you're not coming off sleazy and you're not just coming off as a salesperson. You can do it relationally. It's hard. It's really hard to do that job correctly. I hate doing that job. That's why I didn't my old job I had to do a little bit of sales, not a lot. Because I could set it up and then hand it off to my actual salesperson, but I did have to do that bridge step a lot of the times. But yeah, it's why I was like, I can do sales. I'm even good at sales, but I hate doing sales. And you can't do sales unless you love doing sales. It just doesn't work.
Now, on the other half of sales, and getting back to Oscar's piece here, which really hits in one of the later paragraphs. The one being, what's my evidence for this? It's who's setting the narrative. It's all the news links I see that are clickbait about the latest hot take about some problematic bit of entertainment.
Can I give you my corollary to that real quick?
Sure.
Who's setting the narrative? Something I ask myself, because remember, one of our guiding principles is when we're dealing with politics, especially the White House or Congress, there's no such thing as a leak.
Right. It's a release.
If it gets out, it
controlled
got out
release.
because somebody. Yeah, if it gets out, same thing with sports teams, by the way. There's no such thing as a leak. If somebody leaked it, if it's out, it's because somebody wanted it out. So when you hear that piece of information, the first thing you ask yourself, this works narrative-wise too, is, okay, I've got this piece of information. Why do I have this piece of information? And then start working backwards through your logic puzzle. Okay, how did I get this piece of information? Okay, where did it come from? And then you get to the actual important question, which is, who benefits from me, random guy sitting at a computer who has nothing to do with anything as far as those people are concerned? Who does it benefit that I know about that piece of information?
Yep.
So it changes your mindset of like, the White House floats the Biden administration does this all the time. They float stuff. They'll leak it that they're thinking about a policy. It's a trial balloon, and they're just seeing the reaction, right?
Yep.
So let's say what's something really, really dumb? Gas tax. They're going to repeal the gas tax, right? So it'll leak that there are sources say that they're considering raising the gas tax. Okay. First of all, the source told you that because they wanted it to get out so everybody would react to it in the media, right? Because they're gauging the reaction. Who does it benefit in the White House for TK Turbo to know about that piece of information?
And
is it the president or is it the president's opponents? Right. Well, in this case, it would be the president because his team, not him personally, but his team wants to gauge the reaction of people like TK Turbo to their proposal to see whether it'll fly or not. You see how that works? So when you're thinking on that, it's not just that. It's not just the narrative. It's who's benefiting from the narrative. And then you get into who's controlling the narrative. And that should guide you onto what information is good and not good, and it'll guide your information. And then you can start really discerning what's really going on. It's like, oh, Ron Klain really wants me to know about this gas tax hike. We better tell him that he's a freaking idiot and to shut up real loud on social media, so they'll drop it. And then 2 days later, they'll quietly drop it, and it never happens.
But it's
so you're actually But my point in all that is, you're actually participating a lot more in the process at the high levels than you think you are because they're listening to you.
And in a number of ways. It may not necessarily be by ear, but certainly what you click on, what you buy, that sort of thing, even if they don't know that it was you personally that bought these things, the fact that they're getting a run on them, like toilet paper at the beginning of the pandemic, you can certainly use that as fodder to make it worse for others.
Yep.
I mean, it's interesting. It is interesting that when you get to that level of media participation, because I don't consider film, because film is more sporadic and more one-offs, right? Because you're making a statement through one film, but media is a 24/7 monster that needs to be fed lots of money daily. And getting to that money can be done through integrity, or it can be done through shysters. And stirring up the pot, bringing something to the forefront that doesn't need to be in the forefront is certainly one way to do it.
Well, and you wind up with, and I got to get off here, but what you wind up doing is, and this is why I've almost completely stopped watching network news. Even all the news I do, because, I've got hours of content a day I've got to fill now, right? I got 6 segments a day. 2 of them's an interview. One of them's my good feel of the day. So I got 3 segments a day. That's 3 news stories that I've got to be able to talk roughly about 25 minutes worth of. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that you've watched how I prep. That's a lot of content. And I'm only doing an hour a day. We do 3 hours a day. You multiply that by 3. So there's only so much content out there, is my point.
At a given time.
At any given time,
unless you dig it up.
I've quit watching network news almost totally. I almost never, unless there's like a breaking news thing or something like that, I almost never watch network news. I certainly don't watch the network news talking head shows anymore. I've quit. I've completely cut them out. And it has been so healthy for my perspective of the world. Completely healthy.
It's
because
like
it's just the
stream.
same. Yeah, it's the stream that Oscar was talking about. It's the same crap getting recycled over and over and over again, and you get so caught up in it that you forget how the world actually works, and you forget how to keep your perspective. It disorients you. It disorients you. We talk about it being the spin cycle. I don't care how tough you are. If you spin enough, you're going to lose your bearings.
Yep.
And it's better to stand back out of the flow that Oscar's talking about and watch which way the river's going. And say, I grew up beside a river. I could go down to my buddy Keith's house, who's upstream about a quarter of a mile. I did it a lot as a kid. We'd go play, and then I just jump in the river and float back down to the house. Because it wasn't that far. It was just literally right around the bend. It was a bend in the river. It was not this ain't white water. It was a nice, lazy river, the Elk River in West Virginia. And I would just kind of half swim, half float back down to the house, take about 5 minutes, right?
Right.
If that. And I just float back down to the house and walk up to the house and, strip off my wet clothes and go back in the house. I did that. God, I did that hundreds of times. I just went with it. But if you're in the Gauley River here in the fall, when they open up Summersville Lake and they raise the river level up 12 feet and it becomes the best whitewater in America for a 6-week period of time. I've been in that river, like you come out of the raft when you're whitewater rafting. You can't tell which way's up. You don't know which way you're going. The river's moving you, but you are completely disoriented. You have I don't care it doesn't matter how much you can swim, doesn't matter how tough you are. River's just kicking your ass, right?
Yeah.
Like you're completely at its, and they tell you when you're rafting, because you got your vet, like just get your feet down river and just go with the flow of it, because you don't have any other option. Like try to get your feet up. So if there's a rock or something, your feet hit it, not your head. Get your feet up don't fight the flow and just go with it.
Yep.
And that's what you got to do with your news media. If it's nice and easy, you can jump in there and play a little bit. But when it gets really nuts and it gets really loud, and this is the whole premise of Heard Tell and what I do with my media and my writing, when it gets nuts, it's time to just get out of the river and step back and go, okay. And you've got to be able to stand there and go, why is the water level so high? Why is the rapid so bad? Why is it so turbulent, like Oscar's talking about in this piece? Because when you're just in that turbulence, getting beaten and beaten and beaten and beaten, you have no chance of finding out what's really going on. You've got to go with the flow, get out of the river, stand there, take a minute, get your breath, get your bearings, and try to figure out what's actually going on. Or you got no chance, because nobody's that good.
Well, you can't.
Nobody can discern that much. You can't do it. It's like if you've ever gone whitewater rafting, everybody that's ever been whitewater rafting has had that moment where you get thrown out or you're out of the boat and you're in the river and the river is just whooping you. Because you got nothing for that river, man.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? You got nothing for it. If it wants to kill you, you're dead.
Well,
You've got no power at all. I think it would be good for some of our journalists and our media moguls to go get in a river sometime. That's why I go to the ocean so much. Just went down to Wrightsville a couple weeks ago on a Sunday morning, like 4 in the morning. Got up so I could get there in time for some. My dad used to tell me, he's like, that's why you go to the ocean. You need to see something bigger than you every once in a while. It's good for your soul. I think they need to get in a river where they just get beat to death, or they stand at the ocean and realize there's something bigger than them, and put everything back in perspective of like, okay, I need to just step back and watch this. Buddy, it's been a great morning. I'm way over time, but thank you for your time this morning, my friend.
Dude, thank you for your time.
Hotel's
I'm already
freaking
here.
awesome today. Make sure you don't miss it. I'm
Why
going
do
to
you
be
think I brought
biased
it
and
up
say it's a
on-
great show.
Why do you think I brought it
Great
up?
show today. Going to have another good one tomorrow. We got some really good guests this week, man. Bert Lyko, if you missed him on yesterday's show, that Good Talks is up. We do the Good Talks every afternoon. We go deep in the water on free speech. This ain't the shallow cancel culture crap. Like, we get into the legal definitions, the cultural definitions. We go into the deep water on free speech. It's a great conversation with a brilliant guy. Make sure you check out Bert Lyko on Good Talks from yesterday's program. And TK Turbo, I always appreciate you, my friend.
And I if ever you make a bad show, then I will let you know. But so far, it's super stunning and mature, and I appreciate that more than you can know.
It may not succeed, but it ain't going to suck on purpose. We promise you that much.
I think it's succeeding. You bring a lot of numbers to that show, plus we keep getting new. I know on Facebook we keep getting new members, following and liking the Big Talker Network Facebook page. So certainly for driving people to the awareness of our network has been, just it's better than a billboard on the side of the road. I got to say that.
Yeah, check out Oscar's piece. It is the best thing you will read today as far as explaining media to you. So, thanks, buddy. We'll talk tomorrow.
And we'll see you then. And with that in mind, we're going to take a quick news and weather and sponsor break. And we'll be right back here at the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. 3 days of negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian delegations begin today in Turkey. After more than a month of war, Ukrainian officials are hoping a ceasefire can come from this round of talks. To bolster NATO readiness, the Pentagon announced it is deploying 6 Growler aircraft to Germany. The planes can jam or confuse enemy radar. Closer to home, dry conditions are increasing the possibility of wildfires across western North Carolina. There are ongoing efforts in the battle to put out a fire in Swain County that stretches into the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The fire covers about 750 acres. Fire officials say about 30% of it is contained now, and they expect to make a bigger dent into that number as weather conditions improve. About 70 firefighters are on the ground from multiple agencies. There are currently no evacuation orders, and there have been no injuries reported. In New Hanover County, Cape Fear Public Utility Authority released its annual drinking water quality report. The EPA requires drinking water providers to report their water quality and what's been found in the water, sometimes down to the parts per trillion. Certain contaminants are allowed to be found in our water as long as it doesn't surpass the EPA's and states' set limits. CFPUA had no water quality violations last year. And it may not feel like it, but there's some good news at the pump. Average gasoline prices in North Carolina have fallen 5.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price across the state is $4.02 a gallon, according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 gas stations in North Carolina. Despite the slight decline this week, prices in North Carolina are 47 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and stand more than $1.40 higher than a year ago. The national average price of gasoline remains at $4.23 a gallon. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Today's going to be the coolest day of the work week, so be sure to have a jacket with you at all times. We're starting the morning off in the middle and upper 30s and only going to make it into the middle 50s for afternoon highs, 15 degrees below the average. And we are going to see some sunshine and some high cirrus clouds throughout the day today, but for tonight, partly cloudy skies will be in store for us. Light winds out of the south and temperatures falling down into the middle and the upper 40s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Teachers and parents, the North Carolina Symphony is here to support you as you carry on the education of your children and students. Take your kids on a free virtual field trip to the Symphony with a virtual education concert and companion student book. Go on a virtual journey to learn what makes music music with music by William Grant Still, Beethoven, Brahms, and more. Access the free video and student book with password 1932 at ncsymphony.org/virtual.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. Please visit our website at the bigtalker.live website. That's BIGTALKER.LIVE. Get information on our schedule, our programs. Download links for the, if it's not there yet, it will be soon, because we're working on all of this day by day, week by week as we grow. To send us an email, you can send us an email with any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, or compliments, because we cannot improve without your feedback. You would help us out quite a bit. And, of course, it was wonderful to have Andrew Donaldson on here bringing up the laminar flow concept of trolling at a higher level. Because one of the things about having a capitalist market, right, a consumer market, is about the flow of money from people to people, companies to people, people to companies, companies to companies. A very interesting relationship. But it's all about consuming. And one of the realizations that we have made over time is that consumption can be manipulated or controlled or managed through disposability and obsolescence. And if you don't believe that's true, why aren't we talking about Hillary's emails today? These stories have an expiration date. How about the Freedom Convoy? That one expired the moment Ukraine was invaded. A lot of things were downgraded to not that important, at least in the news cycle, because now they have their leading story. Even American politics leading into November's election is going to struggle to maintain competition against a war. Now, if this situation does resolve in Europe sooner than later, which would be nice, then the news cycle can shift back to the xenophobic, self-centered creation that it is. We seem to, along our news cycles anyway, our programming, again, I program this computer to run the station for me when I am not here. So think about programming as a form of automation. You have been programmed to respond to things. You've been programmed to respond to an emergency situation. I mean, one of the things I didn't get to discuss with Andrew was, the idea that when you're in a situation that's traumatic, immediate, an extreme, it adds an experience to your body, because your muscles have memory just like your brain, and they remember that dump of adrenaline. They remember that feeling, that experience of being in that moment. And the next time it happens, you're a little more prepared because now you're not frightened by the experience, right? The first time I realized I was falling out of a tree, the next time I went up a tree, I had a better respect, a greater respect for that danger, but I no longer had that level of fear that when I was falling out of a tree, I could just fall out of the tree. It wasn't a problem. I misstepped, and I didn't make that mistake near as often because I didn't have fear. I had respect. And I would much rather respect my representatives, respect my leaders, than fear them. The media, it seems, the greater media, the ones that are really going after the big corporate money, have run their station on that same concept. If you can't respect them, fear them. When I was a child coming up and didn't really pay attention to the news because I was still figuring out how Hot Wheels works, how to get my car to jump across the living room and not get lost in the carpet, we had, Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather and McNeil Lehrer NewsHour. It was a different environment for delivering the news. It was more benevolent and altruistic to get information to you. It wasn't screaming about who's right, who's wrong. The entire political landscape was a little bit different. And some of that may be because I was naive at the time and didn't understand it, but being in the business for so long and knowing what I am required to run as a story to sell while I'm in the newsroom, it ate at my soul. What I'm doing now is a lot more fun. I'm not making near the money, but that's not what drove me to do this in the first place. It's the technology, it's the interaction, it's the programming, it's the machines, it's the wiring, the interconnects, and all the different disciplines that need to come together for this to happen. That's the part that drew me into this. When I had to start pitching these really weird ideas in order to sell cars, candy bars, and carpets, did it become something of a soul-sucking gig, right? I mean, if it bleeds, it leads. That was not untrue. And it'd be nice if we can get away from that and get more into the conversations, which is, part and parcel of my hijacking the station. I want to talk to people. I don't want to yell. I don't want to be calling names. I even got called out for it myself because it is such a natural thing to do. It's who we are. It's in our DNA. We behave like this. This is, not unique. So we're trying to split the line right down the middle here and still be a conservative talk radio station, but be more effective in our conversations so that we're actually hunting for solutions. And we try to talk to people who know what they're doing and know what they're talking about, have degrees in this stuff, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's the top of the hour. We're going to take a news, weather, and sponsor break because we had such a good conversation with Andrew Donaldson at ordinary-times.com. This segment was going to be a little bit shorter, and I'm okay with that. We'll be right back on the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. Don't go nowhere.
Keeping Leland informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gabe Frank of the Frank Institute, and I wanted to tell you about our IV vitamin, infusion, and hydration therapies. These IVs are the most effective treatment for vitamin and nutrition deficiencies available, and with our wide range of offering, your treatment can be tailored to your specific needs. Whether you struggle with hydration or nutritional deficiency, injury recovery, low energy, please feel free to check out our IV infusions today. Schedule an appointment at 910-679-8534 or check out all our treatment services at www.frankinstitute.com.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. 3 days of negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian delegations begin today in Turkey. After more than a month of war, Ukrainian officials are hoping a ceasefire can come from this round of talks. To bolster NATO readiness, the Pentagon announced it is deploying 6 Growler aircraft to Germany. The planes can jam or confuse enemy radar. Closer to home, dry conditions are increasing the possibility of wildfires across western North Carolina. There are ongoing efforts in the battle to put out a fire in Swain County that stretches into the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The fire covers about 750 acres. Fire officials say about 30% of it is contained now, and they expect to make a bigger dent into that number as weather conditions improve. About 70 firefighters are on the ground from multiple agencies. There are currently no evacuation orders, and there have been no injuries reported. In New Hanover County, Cape Fear Public Utility Authority released its annual drinking water quality report. The EPA requires drinking water providers to report their water quality and what's been found in the water, sometimes down to the parts per trillion. Certain contaminants are allowed to be found in our water as long as it doesn't surpass the EPA's and states' set limits. CFPUA had no water quality violations last year. And it may not feel like it, but there's some good news at the pump. Average gasoline prices in North Carolina have fallen 5.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price across the state is $4.02 a gallon, according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 gas stations in North Carolina. Despite the slight decline this week, prices in North Carolina are 47 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and stand more than $1.40 higher than a year ago. The national average price of gasoline remains at $4.23 a gallon. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Today's going to be the coolest day of the work week, so be sure to have a jacket with you at all times. We're starting the morning off in the middle and upper 30s and only going to make it into the middle 50s for afternoon highs, 15 degrees below the average. And we are going to see some sunshine and some high cirrus clouds throughout the day today, but for tonight, partly cloudy skies will be in store for us. Light winds out of the south and temperatures falling down into the middle and the upper 40s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. Tune in Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. for Objection to the Form, covering civil litigation, real estate issues, and intellectual property. That's Objection to the Form, Thursdays 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Just in time. Welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Rise and shine, boys and girls. It's 9 o'clock. At the tone, it'll be 9:06. Yeah, it's now 9:06 in the morning. It's not warm outside. I'll just say that. Right above freezing. Oh, look at that. The doors have been thrown open at the Asylum here on the Big Talker Network. A reminder that the BigTalker.live website, while currently under construction, is still open for visitors. Please send us a web or a email from the link there with any comments, concerns, questions, critiques, compliments, comments. We can't improve without your feedback. So wasn't sure how to go out on this last hour, and no shortage of words anyway. We have a vocabulary in the English language of, like 14,000 words or 35, something like that. It's ridiculous. Anyway, then somebody reminded me of the angst I had towards the 21st century concept of participation trophy and accomplishments. Now, one of the things that is the most fun about running this station, and it happened just this morning, and if you've been listening to the program this morning, you heard me go through that experience. And the real joy is when I figure something out and fix it. Right? That is an accomplishment. This one may not have been a big deal, but it was a big deal because I want everyone to have good, clean-sounding audio, not doubled up tracks playing when they're not supposed to. I want you to be able to hear the news as being delivered to us by WAY in its entirety. And when things go a little sideways, it's up to me to figure out what happened and fix it. And sometimes that requires a series of events. And you have to go through this and that and look for the little things. You have to look for the big things. But the accomplishment comes when it's discovered what happened, a correction is made, and everything is back to normal after that. That's why I have a problem with how a lot of things operate in the world. Now, let's the participation trophy, all right? Now, I'll still call it a trophy because there have been a number of events that I was involved in that I did not win. I did not win a trophy. I did not win a ribbon. I did not win anything like that. But I did get a T-shirt for my time, for my participation. That is my trophy. It's a T-shirt, kind of like a receipt because you have to pay to be part of the event. And now that you're part of the event, you get a T-shirt saying, hey, I was part of this event. And you can wear it around the world, and somebody can stop you in the street and say, hey, what's the bike trek to Shakertown, for example? I have a shirt that's over 25 years old, 24 years old now, from a bike ride I took with the television station WAVE in Louisville, Kentucky, Wave Television. And Wave 3 TV, still on the air, wonderful people, wonderful environment. And the bike trek to Shakertown was part of the Lung Association's fundraiser that we were a part of, and we had our own little group of riders, and was allowed to participate. And we rode through the beautiful hillsides of Kentucky, raising money for the Lung Association and other nonprofits with every mile we put under our tires. And it was a lot of fun, and I still have the T-shirt. I did not enter the race to be the first. Right? I didn't enter the race, in costume or anything like that. I didn't. I just wanted to ride. Just wanted to ride with the group, raise the money, have fun. So I participated, and my T-shirt is a receipt for that participation. But the person who came over the line first, who had the best times and all that stuff, all the stuff, because they had some serious bike riders. I mean, they were up and on the road at 6 a.m., pumping electrolytes to every toenail and hair follicle they had, just going at it because that's what they do. That's their passion, and bless them for it. That I don't think that they should have received the same trophy that anybody else who just showed up and started writing. Like, if I had been given a trophy for my participation beyond that t-shirt, it would have been embarrassing. Because it doesn't encourage accomplishment. So the guys who did win those trophies worked for those accomplishments and achieved them. And some of these accomplishments can be small, just like getting through the domestic chores so that your house is not a complete chaotic wreck. Maybe the accomplishment is figuring out why the news and weather breaks are not playing correctly. Maybe the accomplishment is getting your schedule together so that you still have you time, me time, and still be able to do the things that need to be done, whether it's soccer and work or tournament or whatever it is, right? Finding that balance is an accomplishment. And it shouldn't necessarily be based on a tangible reward. There's no tangible reward in getting the news and weather fixed, but it does make me feel a bit of joy that I saw the problem, I identified the problem, I corrected the problem, and it's now resolved. I can now go about the rest of my day not having to worry about that problem anymore today. Now that I know what the problem is, I know what to look for to prevent that problem from reoccurring anytime in the future. And when it does occur, I know what to look for and how to correct it more quickly, more efficiently. These are accomplishments. These are the things you take with you. This is how this is where the knowledge and experience that a person gains comes from, is these little accomplishments. So if you're rewarding people without accomplishment, then there's no association to that good feeling. Like in Boy Scouts, they start to associate the good feeling internally by doing good work for other people. Whether it's holding, we begin to understand that the simple little things can be the most helpful, can be the most positive contributing factors that we can provide as individuals. Holding, you see somebody, just hold the door for a moment. Not a problem. Traffic is completely backed up and chaotic. Give everybody a little room. Slow down a little bit. Relax. Try to get out of the me first and participate in the community. And your accomplishments will be your own. That community begins with the family unit, expands to the neighborhood, right? So the word community is much bigger than what is a representation for that which is much bigger than we can really understand. And we, as wordsmiths here in the United States, we have slogans and campaigns and chants and mantras like no other country on earth. And we can rally behind a single phrase, and it helps if it rhymes. But that participation is not what's going, participating in the community itself is going to have accomplishments. Community events, that's an accomplishment because you brought something helpful, fun, and it's a word that starts with the prefix con. We converge. We are able to come together. Right? Like down the street from us, not far, we have a park. And it's not uncommon, like they're about to have another Easter egg hunt, and the entire area is invited to participate in the Easter egg hunt. So kids that these kids haven't gone to school with are going to be there. And they're going to be able to interact with other people not in their neighborhood, not in their school, maybe not even in their age group. Maybe not the same language. Maybe not the same skin or hair color or eye color. Long hair, short hair, roly-poly or beanstalk. That exposure is going, the community has an accomplishment that they brought people together, had those conversations, those meetings, those introductions. And the community at large, the people participating in it, each have accomplishments. Whether it's the eggs or the good time with their kids, a little family time, a little interactive family time because you get to work with another family, meet other parents. So accomplishment and participation can blend. But in some sort of event or in daily life, that accomplishment should have its own internal reward, if you will. Solving a problem. And I think that's where we lose it in education, is because it's more about participation than it is about accomplishment. We put 30 kids into a room to obey a single maestro conducting at the top of the room, front of the room. They are participating, but they're not accomplishing. If you challenge them with a problem and have them overcome it, that feeling of accomplishment and the frustration's getting there. Because it's those frustrations, those mistakes, those dead ends, those are what teach us, oh yeah, let's not do that again, right? In some professions, you only get one shot at it, like, suicide bombers. But the rest of us, we can try again. Didn't work? Yeah, let's try it again. And certainly in the case where you don't have, any real instruction manuals, all you got is your wit and your wisdom. Case in point, this stolen radio station. Everything I learned about this station is by figuring it out and accomplishing what seemed impossible before I got here. Or when I got here. When I got to the station, when it was a station before I stole it. That's my point. And since then, because I had the freedom to basically explore and see what I could do with it, because now there's no real pressure to maintain some level. I can experiment. I can try things. I can plug things in, and if it doesn't work, well, let's not do that again. And now we can do things like have All Things Brunswick at 6 o'clock being aired out of Bolivia, North Carolina, through Holly Ridge, North Carolina, to all the denizens of Brunswick County and elsewhere around the county, around the state, around the nation, around the globe. Because no community exists in isolation. And many communities will build ideas from other communities, which is why the Eden Project is blossoming here, or about to open, when other programs around the country, the one I was referring to in Seattle, Washington, apparently they took their model from another one, very, very similar, to help our community, our larger community, the Wilmington, the greater Wilmington area community at large, is going to have some relief from a problem that's growing in that community. That is going to be a major accomplishment. That should be recognized. But just doing what you do, that's not really, accomplishments are what should be rewarded, not just participating. So in trying to be inclusive, I think we need to have, as Andrew would put it, guardrails to say, wait a minute, this is a little outside the norm here, ladies. There's a cutoff point. let's not get, give a T-shirt, give some sort of door prize, some sort of feel-good thing they can keep with them. And in my case, I can hand it down to my children because the T-shirt's still in great shape for the most part. I still wear it. I'm still proud of that accomplishment because I did finish the race. There were many people that didn't. Or it's not a race, it was a bike ride, bike trek. But the accomplishment for myself was participating in it. And yes, I smoked. How's that? Riding a bicycle for the Lung Association. And the way I did it is I would hop out there early in the morning with some of the first couple of groups. And I would pace myself because I'm not there to beat anything. I'm there to see the countryside because I'd never been in this part of Kentucky before. It was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So it was not uncommon for me to pedal, 4 miles, 5 miles, stop and take a break. Have a little sip of soda. Yes, I was drinking Mountain Dew and water and orange juice. It was pretty healthy. They didn't provide a lot of unhealthy, there wasn't any Doritos. There was a lot of pasta. But anyway, I would stop and take a break, have a smoke, look around, see the bugs, the birds, the antelope or whatever was running across the fields. Just enjoy the moment and get back on my bike and ride another 4 miles, 5 miles, maybe with the third or fourth group by now, right? Enjoy the sunshine, meet some people, roll along, check out the different bikes, different costumes and whatever else these people were wearing. And then stop, take a break, have another sip, maybe a snack. If I hadn't made it to the rest, because they had break stops, so you had a lunch break for about an hour. They recommended 30 minutes to an hour to stop and rest and carb up and, that sort of thing before you set out again. So I paced myself so that I enjoyed the entire day and I was never too late, right? I was never like on the SAG bus, because if you fall too far behind, they put you in the SAG wagon and they, drive you to the next stop. And there was 3 stops along the way. So we actually spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. 2 nights, Friday and Saturday night, at different places along the way. And then we spent an entire afternoon. The last day was a short ride into Shakertown. And then we stayed in the Shakertown Inn. And we got to tour the Shakertown. I don't know if it's a museum or what it is, right? But I participated in the entire event, and I accomplished riding the entire distance every day. But I didn't get a trophy because I didn't accomplish anything remarkable. And that's where the deviation in the 21st century is, that everybody wants to be remarkable. We all want to be unique. And in so doing, we do outlandish things, or I should say, I have noticed more and more outlandish things, whether it's what they say, what they wear, the subject matter they choose, because we as a species seem to understand that extremism sells. And that's not really a good thing, I don't think. Because if only the extreme sells, then only the extreme would be acceptable. And I think that's where we start losing it, because the extreme seldom holds substance. If it's all about the flash, what's holding that up? It's a framework. It's a facade, right? The whole Tammy Faye Baker and Jim Baker's thing kind of comes to mind, right? I mean, public opinion, public image, and the truth. That's all to sort of get the clicks, to get the eyeballs, get the attention, because we are so in need of attention deficit. Our own ability to pay attention to something compared to the need to be the center of attention. And the manifestations thereof are reflections of the family unit that raised that individual. I am looking at you, Bobert and Green. Because think about it. In the decorum of the State of the Union address, most Americans who had been through the Boy Scouts, at least, or something of that nature, because that's been my experience, we would appreciate and respect the decorum of the chamber. And as much as we disagreed and wanted to say something, we would wait until we were no longer in the chamber to have any sort of reaction or outburst or whatever. So for that, they're going to be rewarded with attention. They're going to be rewarded with people sending them money. And that part is nauseating because that registers as an accomplishment, and it's not. That was a failure, but they're being rewarded for it. So their participation in the State of the Union address, which was completely out of order by decorum and protocols, seems to be rewarded by people throwing money and attention at these people. And as the saying goes, there's no such thing as, bad press is better than no press. There's no such thing as bad press. But maybe you need to be the bad guy because that controversy puts you in the face of people, starts giving you the name recognition, starts giving you the accomplishments that you haven't actually earned. Or I should say these people have not you, dear dedicated listener, but the people that we're voting for, the people that are representing us, don't actually represent us. Because that representation should be holistic, a complete representation. As far as I'm concerned, the best representation of what it is to be a free American has been best represented by a foreign leader who's under attack right now. Who, like one of our own, or our own former president a while back, he was an actor in a former gig, and a comedian to boot. And I have always said, even when in high school, paying attention between the news and the late night comedians riffing on the news, the comedians have a better head of what's going on, which is why they're so funny. Whichever side of the aisle on, as Andrew pointed out, and as I have, they are tailoring their message, their comedy to their audience. They could easily turn around to the other side. That's why, for me, the White House Correspondents' Dinner is so much fun. Because those speakers are amazing. And those speeches, when the president does address the Correspondents' Dinner, when he decides to be there, are just hilarious. It's amazing. It's just so much fun. Because we need to remember that we are people trying to make a better world for ourselves and ourselves coming up behind us, our children, our children's children, the generations to follow. And right now, we seem to be, as a country, experiencing a growth pain that many other countries have already experienced. Some of them collapsed into absolute chaos. Germany through the 40s. 39, late 30s, into the 40s. Many people don't realize that we were pretty close to that here. And that's pretty much, the embodiment of what's happening in Russia right now. So knowing that our safeguards are able to hold in place is very comforting. But the representation for that is getting embarrassing. Because these are not how we as a people are represented. It's how these, being represented by these people that are not who we are. And that's going to be the disconnect, as I need to pull up this article real quick that's on Ordinary-Times by, is this the one? No. I got distracted. I think it is this one. I think it is Oscar's piece. Anyway, top of the hour, or bottom of the hour, news break, music. Where's my music? I'll take that music. Yeah. There we go. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, too much going on. Got to watch the clock. Got to take care of things. It's really, really weird. with that in mind, we will be right back on the Asylum right here on the Big Talker Network. We never shut up. Don't go nowhere.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWAY News. 3 days of negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian delegations begin today in Turkey. After more than a month of war, Ukrainian officials are hoping a ceasefire can come from this round of talks. To bolster NATO readiness, the Pentagon announced it is deploying 6 Growler aircraft to Germany. The planes can jam or confuse enemy radar. Closer to home, dry conditions are increasing the possibility of wildfires across western North Carolina. There are ongoing efforts in the battle to put out a fire in Swain County that stretches into the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The fire covers about 750 acres. Fire officials say about 30% of it is contained now, and they expect to make a bigger dent into that number as weather conditions improve. About 70 firefighters are on the ground from multiple agencies. There are currently no evacuation orders, and there have been no injuries reported. In New Hanover County, Cape Fear Public Utility Authority released its annual drinking water quality report. The EPA requires drinking water providers to report their water quality and what's been found in the water, sometimes down to the parts per trillion. Certain contaminants are allowed to be found in our water as long as it doesn't surpass the EPA's and state's set limits. CFPUA had no water quality violations last year. And it may not feel like it, but there's some good news at the pump. Average gasoline prices in North Carolina have fallen 5.5 cents per gallon in the last week. The average price across the state is $4.02 a gallon, according to Gas Buddy's survey of about 6,100 gas stations in North Carolina. Despite the slight decline this week, prices in North Carolina are 47 cents per gallon higher than a month ago and stand more than $1.40 higher than a year ago. The national average price of gasoline remains at $4.23 a gallon. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Today's going to be the coolest day of the work week, so be sure to have a jacket with you at all times. We're starting the morning off in the middle and upper 30s and only going to make it into the middle 50s for afternoon highs, 15 degrees below the average. And we are going to see some sunshine and some high cirrus clouds throughout the day today, but for tonight, partly cloudy skies will be in store for us. Light winds out of the south and temperatures falling down into the middle and the upper 40s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Hey, I'm Yael Osowski.
And I'm David Clement.
We're the host of Consumer Choice Radio, broadcasting every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Consumer Choice Radio is a weekly conversation featuring the latest news, interviews, and expert analysis that covers consumer topics from around the world.
ConsumerChoiceRadio.com.
Well, hey, y'all, it's Holly Brewer.
And Amy Ludwig. And Kristen Ludwig.
From Just Think, the podcast. The podcast where we don't want to tell you what to think. We just challenge you to do it. We're happy to have some of our episodes featured right here on 106.7 The Big Talker on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So we hope you join us in the conversation and most importantly, just think.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Right here on the Big Talker Network. That's right. Please visit us, our website at bigtalker.live, BIGTALKER.LIVE. Schedule of our programming and content. Should be links to all kinds of things like, the schedule. To our email, so you can send us any comments, questions, concerns, critiques, or compliments you may have. because we cannot improve without your assistance. Right? Positive feedback is just as good as any critique you may send. While we do learn most from our mistakes, we are certainly encouraged by compliments. So, keep that in mind. Participate, join along, and you can accomplish great things. Ha 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 ha. Tying on the last segment. The technology that we were talking about, education, well, in a way, we were talking about accomplishments, and I think that's how education reform could best be served. Because this is how children learn. Even before they know how to speak, you give them toys, and when they figure out the toy, they experience joy, and they do it again. Same thing with Mark Rober did an experiment, which I thought was really amazing, really cool. So what he did was he wrote a little web-based computer game. And he wrote 2 versions. One that had imaginary point system based on, how you played this game, if you succeeded and if you didn't, and how many points you gained, which were absolutely nothing. Right? You couldn't use them to, buy a T-shirt or, like skee ball. You can get a fancy cartoon pencil eraser after 10 tickets or any, it wasn't anything. It was just points. And then he did another one where it wasn't points, and your task was to figure out a problem. Figure out some thing on the screen. I don't know. That wasn't the important part. The important part was the results. The people who were not being scored were more likely to figure it out more quickly because they were challenged by themselves. They weren't going after a reward and getting frustrated and, comparing scores and getting caught up in that. They were just caught up in solving the problem. And it was a very interesting relationship to the mindset that if we're not trying to, race to the end, we can usually see things a little more clearly because we're not, that pressure, that psychological, and it wasn't even real. It's not like, you're trying to win a car or a tournament. It was just figure out the puzzle. And I think that's where we lose it in education, is that we're trying to beat the SAT scores. But do they understand what it is they're doing when they, what are they, what practical, applicable knowledge do they have when filling out a bubble test? And I get it, it makes it easier. Like in my day, there was many a time that the teachers had to go home with a stack. Keep in mind, each teacher had 30 students in a class, 5 classes a day. That's 150 students a day. So at the end of the day, and you have an essay test, this teacher has to read 150 essays. And on top of that, be expected to relate each essay to each student. That is, when responding to my essay, my teacher had to recall and keep in mind the context of who I am when looking at my paper. 150 times. Filling in a bubble is a lot faster, a lot easier. You take the bubble, then you take the master key. You didn't run this through a computer. At least not my day. It was too expensive. You just made a master key with a hole punch on the same punch card, or hole, the little bubble card. And you just lay the key over that, and you got the right answer, the wrong answer. It's really easy to do in math. In fact, it almost seems, logical to do so in math. But you can be tricking those things. There are classes that teach you how to take these tests even if you don't know the material. tricks to look for so you know out of the 4 possible answers, which 2 right off the bat are just outlandish and not possible. Then you got a 50-50 shot. So instead of having a 25% shot at a good guess, you now got it down to 50-50. Or up to 50-50. Now you got a better shot at picking the right answer. So it's not even about the knowledge of the information in the test, it's the knowledge of the test. And that's not helping anybody. And that's why I'm thinking, for me, the philosophy would be combining accomplishment with curiosity. Why are bubbles round? And once you understand it, and that accomplishment of that understanding becomes its own reward, that for me is more powerful than crack. Because that's the good feeling I'm after. I don't necessarily need to be recognized for it. At least, me personally, I don't. I like doing it. I like accomplishing. I like fixing things. The problem in my life is, there are some things that can't be fixed. Certainly not in the way that I understand it. And sometimes that's not what is necessary. But that's different. That's its own learning curve, independent of succeeding when making a radio station work, especially one that I've stolen that had no real operating manual. I mean, when I got to the station, it was a station, and I knew broadcast. I knew the concepts. I understood the technology in play, even if I didn't understand the individual applications and executions of this technology. So I had to learn all of that, which wasn't hard because I was open to how things work anyway. When you understand how an oven works, it doesn't matter what oven you use, you understand how it works and can operate it with some level of competency, having never seen it before. Same thing with a car. Doesn't matter what car you get in for the most part. Your familiarity and understanding of cars in general will give you a head start on operating the car you're in. The headlight switch might be in a different spot, but the basics of operating the vehicle are already in your experience. That was an accomplishment you achieved years ago, and it still applies as you approach or enter into a new car, which is a new situation based on the same experience. And that's all any of my gigs have ever been, is developments on experiences, knowledge, and understanding that I already had. So running sound for a live band wasn't too far of a departure of running sound for a live television program. There's a few differences, but there's more similarities. All it is refinements on that same process, tweaked for that environment. The needs of a live music band is a little different than television, but all of the functions are the same. What people need to hear in the audience and what the people need to hear participating in the event, whether you're a musician or a speaker or an anchor or a presenter. Or in the case of radio, it's a different format, but I still have to be able to handle audio and video protocols among different places and timings and things like that. So those accomplishments and integrating that technology was adding to what I already had as experience and knowledge. So that as I was faced with new and different problems in different areas, I just had a laundry list of problems to fix when I got here. And every day, well, at least once a week, I'd be getting suggestions or requests to fix other things in the station. And I would have to dive in, figure out what's involved, what's going on, and how to correct it, and then do so. figure it out, fix it. And now we're able to do more now as a production entity and content provider than we ever could as a radio station. We have greater capabilities now, greater interactive and reach, I think. We're stereo now, so, that's definitely, that was a big personal accomplishment for me. Because there were many times it kind of hurt me a little driving into work at the radio station, hearing the morning program, and the morning guy would fire off a chunk of music that I'm familiar with, but I know I'm only hearing the left side of it. He's hearing it in stereo in his headphones in the control room, but the antenna was mono and only took the feed. It didn't even bother, nowhere along the way had they bothered to sum the stereo output. So I'm listening to one of my favorite tracks, but I'm only listening to half of it. Now you get the full Monty. Left channel, right channel, all that stuff without any interference from a carrier wave in the middle of it. I'm kidding. Anyway, carrying that further is just a series of accomplishments that encourage me to seek the next challenge and overcome it. And human nature likes to complain about those challenges, but it's those challenges that actually define our character. Very young in my career did I run into it's a broadcast emergency. It's not like anybody's going to die, but we had a problem. We were facing a big problem. There's a lot of money involved, There's a lot of legal ramifications. There was a lot riding on it. The situation was we were trying to broadcast the lottery from Florence, Kentucky, and the sky opened up and rained hell upon us before, during, and after we were trying to broadcast the lottery, which has to fire at a particular time for a number of reasons. One of which is the satellite. We have to pay for satellite time to do a remote broadcast from Florence, Kentucky, and broadcast it to the entire county, or the entire state, rather, so that people can get their Powerball numbers and whatever else, and draw lottery numbers. And there's legal requirements for this to happen, right? So the lottery is overseen by a accounting firm and an oversight. There's all kinds of things to make it legit and legal and everything else, and they're very, very stringent about their rules. So we had to have the drawings. They actually have like 5 drawings. And the other 4 are controls to make sure that everything's random. So I think they draw 3 before the game and 1 after the game, after the one that's broadcast, the one that's selected for the actual numbers for the lottery. The other ones are just to make sure everything, it's like a testing thing. They're just making sure everything's random, they weigh every single ball before each and every deal, every game, I guess they call it. And when they do that, they have an auditor to come in and 2 people sign that the same lock, they have one of those wire locks like they put on your electrical box. Not only is it padlocked or whatever, but they also have that control lock. And they both verify that it's the same number, and they both verify that it's still intact, and then they cut it, then they open it, they weigh it's a big deal. So when it came time to do the actual broadcast, it looked like we were unable to have a broadcast. Because it's raining sideways, we can't put our cameras out there. But we have to have this on camera. We have to have video evidence of the control drawings and the actual drawing. But we couldn't, and everything had to happen by the same people. We can't put new people in there to do the drawing. It has to be those people because they've already been vetted. They've already been, certified or whatever the term was. So it was really everybody's starting to sweat. We're losing it. We're pulling our hair out because we have to do this. This has to happen. Now, I wasn't at the top of the line. The chief engineer's pulling his hair out, the producers, the auditors, the lawyers. Everybody's losing their mind trying to figure this out. And I'm off to the side saying, Well, what are the bare requirements? So the video evidence just needs to be videotaped and archived. That's just, for reference. If anything comes up in the future, we can show them here's the video evidence of the drawing as it happened. The controls, and here's the one that counts. And you can see it's the same people. The auditors are there. The security is there. The lawyers and all that are there. So we only need that for archive. It doesn't necessarily have to hit the air. What does need to hit the air is the numbers. What does need to happen is that drawing needs to happen. So I came to my chief engineer, Kevin Wooten, and said, hey, put my graphics online. He was like, what? I said, give me a headset and put my graphics box directly online. Don't run video. Don't try to run video. Videotape it. Take one of our E&G cameras, electronic news gathering, and just videotape the drawing, because that's all we need for legal requirement is the ability to go back and view this drawing on videotape. So just send one guy in there, keep the camera wide, and just record the whole thing. Don't bother trying to broadcast it, but keep me on headset so I can hear them call the numbers, and I will put the numbers on screen. And that was how that drawing went. And we notified the people at the station that due to weather concerns, the lottery drawing would be relayed through the station. And it worked out. The drawing happened. We were able to satisfy all the legal and auditing requirements. We still got the numbers out at the right time for the people playing the game. That was an accomplishment. I didn't get an award or a trophy or anything. I did get an attaboy, and a couple of guys were like, ooh, thanks for saving our butts. But that's because I had the freedom off to the side that I wasn't the one under pressure. That without that pressure of trying to accomplish a goal that had already been set for me by somebody else, I was able to say, all right, let's see what we can accomplish with what we have to work with. And that formula yielded a solution that under the circumstances was the most effective, elegant solution possible. So I think we need to get a little further away from participation, and focus on accomplishments. Get away from standardizing and get into curiosity. Don't tell a kid, ask a kid. If you challenge a kid, they will want to prove you wrong. You can't figure this out. Oh, watch me. I bet you can't tell me why. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? Let's try using that. Then you get their interest. You get them from the inside. And now they are internally driven. They aren't being squashed into a room and dictated to, right? They are now involved in their own curiosity. They are involved in their own education. And I had a couple of classes like that as a kid where certain groups were given a little bit to work with and discuss it among yourselves and sort of hash it out. And then overlay that or compare that, integrate that with another group's information. And we started having more interesting conversations, which were driven by our own curiosity from within. And those were usually interpersonal, not necessarily, understanding, like math or calculus or philosophy or something like that. Because some of these soft topics that don't have a right or wrong answer all the time are the ones that are going to make us or break us. That's where we find morality and the hypocrisy between actions and beliefs, actions and rhetoric. Even Christians are mad at Christians for pretending to be Christians or using the Christian this, that, or the other to get their name known or to get themselves out there. Or using any other, name dropping is another example. being friends with so-and-so as an actor and da-da-da-da. Nah, whatever. It's the accomplishments that we should be encouraging, not the outlandish. We should be rewarding curiosity and solutions more so than entertainment antics. You know, there's just all kind of options we can come up with, all kind of ways we can improve the entire flow. But it's going to start with improving the mindset of the younger generations. While there are still going to be struggles, some of these struggles are sort of distorted. Is it necessary to have a cell phone to survive in the United States? Is it necessary to own a car to survive in the United States? Is it necessary to have name brand clothes to survive in the United States? It might be required to survive in the free stream, but getting to work and getting the stuff done and taking care of business does not. All it requires is the intention and the inherent drive to do so. Sometimes there are external stressors involved. Family, bills, trying to provide, and being the only one that can or will, whatever. That character building aspect of it. That's what we need to encourage. And that can only come from within. It's getting that spark lit. Getting that engine started. Because once that engine started, it will not turn off. Just as the people in Ukraine are learning, or have, demonstrated for us, I should say, have learned, to a point that many Americans have forgotten, that once you've tasted the freedom to read and enjoy what you want, there is no going back. It's not an option. You will die before you go back to subjugation. Over the last 150, 200 years, we seem to have forgotten that here in our country. And it's not related to our children. It's taught to our children. 1776. 1777, July 1777. 1851. But it's not understood what the drive was, what brought us here, why we chose the language in the Constitution, and why the Constitution is written so succinctly. It is one of the most efficient government documents ever generated on planet Earth by human beings. 7 paragraphs and 2 don't even count. How's that? It fits on 2 typewritten pages. All of it. And it's the foundation, the basis for what we seem to have forgotten. That was a major accomplishment. What accomplishments are we able to make going forward that are of the same caliber? That, I think, would be the challenge to which we should strive to. We've done great things. How can we do better? Let's not go backwards. Let's look at our representation. Let's look at the cross-section of America and see if we can't be more accurately represented by people whose lives and interests parallel our own. And we can only do that by voting. That's why we encourage doing so right here on the Big Talker Live. Big Talker Network, Big Talker Live. Been listening to the Asylum, and we appreciate you for it. And we will be back with another broadcast day tomorrow, starting at 7 a.m., following the Heard Tell program at 6 a.m. And, We look forward to seeing you then, ladies and gentlemen. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay tuned for Consumer Choice Radio coming up here on the Big Talker Network. Bye-bye.
Keeping Oak Island informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Folks, you know you're all looking for that special gift. Lines are long, traffic is frustrating, supply chains in the news. Just take a deep breath. If you're anywhere near Oak Island, come by Seaside Jewelers, 8801 East Oak Island Drive. Avoid the traffic, the line.